Okay. We're going. It's on.
Oh, what's up, everyone? Welcome back, motherfuckers.
Sounded haggardly as fuck.
Yeah. It's a dreary day here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, it's cold as fuck right now.
It's pretty chilly. Had a storm roll through, so it's got everybody on the downs, I guess you'd say. Not the Down syndromes, but the downs.
I don't know if you can even say things like that anymore.
Fucking, it's our podcast.
Too close to being offensive.
Shit, man. Hope you guys are having a good day. If you're hearing this, it is Thursday for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hope you're having a good fucking Thursday.
Anyway, so we recorded this podcast Monday morning. We caught up with Big Joe as he was coming back from the Hand-Built show down in Austin. He was headed back to South Dakota, where he's from, and he happened to. I guess the convenience is that our shop and my house is right off Interstate 35.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like when people are passing through, it's like not an inconvenience.
Right.
You know, so he stopped through. He hit me up about 8:30 in the morning and said he was going to be passing through in about 2 hours. So I was like, fuck, you know. So I had to kind of cut into the work time and sit down and do the podcast, which I found myself for the first time, like during this podcast, like he had some like really, really great content. And my mind was just not on. You know what I mean? Like I just...
Was it too early for you?
It was too early. Like I needed to go to lunch first, you know? But man, he really had a lot of good shit. I learned a lot about some things in the FXR community that, you know, I don't know. I just learned some shit, basically. It was good. He had a good take on it. He's a fucking amazing fabricator. I'm probably going to text him later today because I got some ideas I want to learn how to do. And he kind of teaches a little bit of metal shaping and stuff like that. And I want some like very basic knowledge of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to hit him up and find out if he could point me in the right direction on some stuff. So if you're listening to this, I'll be calling you, bro. But yeah, he came through. We sat down. We shot the shit. I've only met him a couple of times. Never really had a long conversation with him. So I get to know him just like you do in this podcast. Yeah, it was good. I had a good time. He talked. We talked.
I was not in this.
There was a lawnmower going on in some of this podcast.
Well, yeah, it's early morning, man.
Yeah, so
you gotta think about shit like that.
There's a lawnmower going on. I think at one point we heard some kids right outside the garage door. I was like, "What the fuck's going on?"
Fucking children.
It's like Monday. Why aren't these little kids in school or whatever? But yeah.
Pull
so
out.
just keep in mind some of the sound quality. Jesse wasn't here on this one, so I was kind of figuring it out.
He called me like 4 times while I was trying to get checked out by the doctor.
Yeah, so all that stuff's good and dandy. As always, this podcast, is brought to you by the good homie Mark Matthews at Texas Performance.
As fucking always.
Check him out, as we say every time. He's our dude, man. He's helping keep this podcast alive. He helps keep my bikes alive, you know what I mean? So, we appreciate him, and check out his website at texasperformancemc.com, and the same thing on IG, Texas Performance MC. Stop in and see him, Cedar Park, Texas. You can't go wrong with it. Check out his dyno. He knows how to use it. He's got a dyno, and he knows how to use it. There's a good one.
That's a good catchphrase right there.
Check him out. Also, you'll be able to catch him and ourselves at Texas Hills next weekend. Not this one, but next one.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be releasing another podcast prior to that, and during that podcast, we'll probably give you like our plans as far as like when we're leaving Dallas, where we're gonna stay at Saturday night. A lot of insight about the show. I hope that a lot of you guys take the time to come out. Just a little heads up, we're gonna be leaving out Saturday morning from Dallas. We're going to probably end up staying on the actual site, the Albert's Ice House site, Saturday night. Don't know when we'll get there. We're just going to have a good time riding all the way down. Sunday, we'll be there all day for the show. And then I believe some folks are going to be riding back Sunday evening to Dallas. Obviously some people have to work on Monday. But for those that are, willing to live and experience
Here we go.
and party and just fucking rock on. You know, those guys are going to stay. They took the time off on Monday, and we're going to stay that night. We're going to party with the rest of the Texas Hills people and the rest of the industry that decides to stay that night. And then we're going to burn back home Monday morning while everybody else is at work. We're going to be riding bikes. That's what's cool.
Yeah.
So don't forget about that. If you guys want to go down, reach out to us on our Instagram. You know, the more the merrier is the way I see it. As long as you can ride. Also,
like, why? It's a requirement. Why do you
yeah,
need
well,
to
you know,
say
you
that?
don't want people that don't know how to ride in groups. You know what I mean? You get that.
Yeah, that's sketch.
Weird guys and stuff. But
Make them ride in the back.
also, great sponsor. Love to have him back on. Paint Huffer Metal Flake. We stay flaked out every day in our shop.
Woo.
Shit's everywhere. We're probably not the smartest painters. We actually use our flake in the paint booth. We should probably be doing it like some folks and painting flake outside or some shit like that.
They do that?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was real.
Yeah, people
Wow.
actually do that.
I'm an amateur.
That way it's not all in your, you know, like you flake
the
out a
booth?
bike and then you
Yeah.
come back and do a black paint job and you got little silver flakes in
Yeah,
it.
that's why I spend a lot of time sleeping in the booth.
Yeah. But yeah, so check them out. Paint Huffer Metal Flake on IG, painthuffer.com. Love their shit. I'm actually excited. I'm supposed to be getting some pearls from them. I'm going to try that stuff out. I'm pretty excited about that. Wanted to add another variety of style to our paint schemes and, you know, kind of not necessarily tone down the flake jobs, but add some more elements to it with pearls and other types of tricks and stuff. So yeah, check those guys out. They got everything. They're coming out with more shit. Follow them on IG. They repost a lot of cool paint jobs. If you use their flake and your shit's badass, it's going to get reposted on their stuff as well.
For sure.
Check those guys out. Fuck yeah. Also, check us out, man. Check ourselves out, I guess.
Patreon, dude.
Yeah, the Patreon's still growing. I mean, we appreciate that shit, guys. We're still trying to add, you know, like I said, you hear it's getting redundant, right? We're trying to add something else to it, you know, but just bear with us, man. We're really trying to focus on getting content out there for the podcast and getting quality people on here to talk to. And when we get a break, we kind of have been spending some time trying to figure out how to do YouTube and figure out how to give specific people that listen to our or that are subscribed to our Patreon. We're trying to figure out how it works. How can we give you the exclusive content and nobody else gets it? So we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, so if somebody that understands this shit,
Yeah, if you know how this shit, tell us, please. If you know how to do like some YouTube like easy videos, give us a call. That way we can figure this shit out. You know what I mean? Like just something would be nice.
Yeah.
Is that thing still on?
Yeah.
Is the buttons on?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, anyway, yeah, check it all out, and you know, fastlifegarage.com. You know, you can get the link to our Patreon, iTunes. I'm still to this day getting people asking us, how do you listen to the podcast? I think FXR Mike did a sweet ass video of showing you how to look for it on your phone. It's super simple.
Yeah, he like recorded it through his phone, like the screen of it.
So that's a good
Fancy
way.
shit.
You know, and you know, go to YouTube.
Also, it is the Fast Life Garage on
podcast.
Yeah,
The
Fast
Fast Life.
Life podcast, not Fast Life. It is the. There's a fucking the in there, and you're never gonna find it unless you put the THE, motherfucker.
Yeah, so use that, check it out. Tell your friends about it, man. Like, you know, we've been getting some,
You know, hold on. I feel dumb right now because if they can't find the podcast, then how are they gonna hear that? You know, if they're already listening to it, then it's redundant information.
that is a good
Sorry,
point.
everybody.
The podcast we've been putting out, man, we've been getting so much feedback about it, and I appreciate it. I hope, you know, all you guys sending me messages. I don't know who sends Jesse or if they do, but you know, like these guests that we have on, man, if they said some shit that like you liked or you dug what they said or their story, man, reach out to them, man. They would love to, you know, like hearing that their mindset or their path is like inspiring or it's cool to somebody else. That's just like fuel to the fire to make them do more. So don't be scared to reach out, man. I've reached out to people myself when I've listened to podcasts that I was super, you know, I took a lot from. I reached out and said, dude, your podcast is awesome, man. I took a lot of insight from that. I took a lot of like just good shit from it. So I appreciate you doing that, you know. So yeah, don't be scared to reach out, check out all that stuff. Like I said, man, we're really working on a lot of new things. I mean, I love the podcast. I can't speak for Jesse. I love the direction of it. I love where it's going, and I want to do more, you know. So like we were saying, that Patreon's kind of helping, and you know, sooner or later we'll get more shit that we can. I feel like a lot of people want something, they want to purchase something from us, is what I'm getting. Yeah. But all we like have is expensive paint jobs and expensive helmet paint jobs to offer. So, you know, I like to try to come up, you know, like I said, we've been really kicking this idea for the magazine. It's been still growing. It's still in the fetus, you know what I mean? And we ain't even close to birth of that yet. We're still kind of thinking of all the ways. How do we make it different? How do we make it awesome? I actually did a podcast this morning with a good friend, Steve Hager. I can't remember how you pronounce it, but he's an awesome photographer, and he's interested in helping us out with it. So if you know how to do some photoshopping and some graphic design, man, reach out to us. Maybe we can collaborate on some stuff. Maybe you can help us make this dream a reality. You know what I mean? So don't be scared to holler at your boy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Big Joe's the shit. You're about to hear why, and yeah, fucking A.
3, 2, 1, take off.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
Fast Life Podcast.
What were we talking about before?
We had just.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about the bagger scene.
Yeah.
So,
something we talk about a lot on here. Yeah. Well, I guess tell everybody what your name is for the first in your shop.
Name is Joe Melke. Name of my shop is Snap Fabrications, based out of South Dakota.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you were just mentioning to me that you used to do a lot of the design and stuff for Clockworks, and what was your role up there and all that type of stuff?
When I first went to work for Clockworks, I worked the parts counter. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was relatively small. Mm-hmm. There was only 4 or 5 of us. You know, I was taking care of the website and the phones and orders, scheduling service, doing estimates. Like I said, doing the parts counter, shipping and receiving. I mean, it was just a whole bunch of different stuff.
What time frame was this like?
This is 2004.
Damn, that's exactly whenever I got into motorcycles.
Yeah. In 2000, I met Brian and a couple of the other guys at Clockworks like in 2003, just from local area bike events, and literally just started visiting them at the shop anytime I rolled through Mitchell, where they're based out of in South Dakota. And I got to the point that I would travel with them. I didn't work for them. Just like if it worked out that they were going to Daytona and needed a hand, and I could take the vacation, I'd go to Daytona. And I worked Sturgis with them a couple years before I worked for them. So it was a good
foot to get into the door in the industry.
Yeah, I'd always been a motorcycle guy, you know, and always worked with my hands. I like cars and motorcycles, and you know, messed around with my own stuff. And I was just really interested in being part of that. At the time, I was in radio communications.
Oh shit!
I wasn't on air. I serviced radio communications for the state of South Dakota. So I went from working in the trunk of state vehicles, servicing radios, to climbing radio towers, to working in a motorcycle shop. So yeah, it was. When I first went to work for him, I mean, I didn't want to.
Was it just like a
counter? But it was just the first. It's where they needed somebody at the time. So.
Yeah. Was it just like a super? Like, what was the kind? If you can remember back then, but what was kind of like the push to want to get out of? I don't radio tower climber guys do some good. They get paid pretty decent, don't they?
I had a state government job. You know, I got hazard pay. You know, when I was in the tower. I made a good wage, state benefits and retirement, you know, all that shit that right now I'm think back and I was like, man, I really like having worked in the motorcycle industry and like all of the friends that I've made and places I've traveled
Yeah.
because of it. But then there's the adult part of me that says, you know what, if you would have just stayed doing that, you'd be better off financially, and
Yeah,
you wouldn't be
yeah.
wondering, oh, how am I going to pay for health insurance, or, you know, am I going to have retirement that's worth a damn when I get to be that age?
Yeah.
But on the flip side,
Yeah.
you know, now, you know, as far as what I do for myself, I'm pretty excited about, you know, where it could go and what I'm doing on my own, and the fact that, you know, I don't answer to anybody as far as a boss is concerned.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, also, I mean, you know, you'd probably, if you would have stayed in that job, you saw the rest of your life. You saw the rest of your career, you know, maybe a couple changes or, you know, promotions here and there. But, you know, now you're really, when you do your own thing like you're doing now, you're complete master of everything possible in your life. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah,
So-
there's, you know, where I was at, the only way you're going to move up, so to speak, is for someone to die or retire. I mean, it was that small of an office and that small of a group of people that worked in that department, that it's not like I was there yet. In state government, you top out at a certain wage, and the only way it's going to go up, like I said, someone's got to die for you to take their job, you know.
That's a good way to start a scary movie or a serial. But no, that's kind of that I think a lot of us in this industry have that same kind of like, I wouldn't call it a regret, but just kind of like thinking back, like what would it have been like if you stayed on that course? You know, what would life been like? Would you have been happier? You know, those are things I think I was in architecture before I got into painting, and not that I would have probably went to school to be an actual architect, but you know, maybe the draftsman's jobs that I probably would have capped out at 50, 60 a year.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, you know, the whole hindsight thing. You know, if I knew now what I really enjoy doing, I would have done things different, you know, coming out of high school. You know, you talk about architecture. I mean, I took 3 years of drafting in high school, and I took 4 years of wood shop, and I took as much metal shop and all that kind of stuff in high school, because, you know, I could have given two shits less about English class, math class, or science. You know, I've always known that working with my hands was what I was best at.
You know what's a good thing to think about, and I noticed this in I was never good at math, but if you put like a physical, like construction or math, like the math you use to build something of any kind of form, all that stuff gets simplified in my head. But when you're just looking at a piece of paper and numbers, it's like, what the fuck is going on?
I mean, how old are you?
35.
35,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I turned 45 this year. So the way it's sounding is you probably still had the same type of education that I did, that, you know, they taught all kids the same. You know, now they talk more and more that different kids learn different ways, you know. I excelled in those classes that involved the artist side of me, or the craftsman side of me. In drafting and architecture and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Damn right there's math involved, there's geometry involved, there's physics involved, and all that kind of stuff. I could have definitely excelled in all those classes if they had been taught around that type of a platform, rather than the standard way of testing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I have any of these ADD whatever type things that they label kids as now, but I don't have the attention span for shit that don't interest me.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, is that, you know, finding a way to make, you know, you come out of high school, and once you know basics, you know what I mean, you're like, oh fuck, I can figure out the rest. But then once you know, start down a path of a trades or something like that, where certain mathematics, I mean, I can imagine there's got to be some in the metal shaping and understanding how much to cut and how to bend and where and stuff like that. Of course, I don't know shit about that stuff, and I was hoping we'll get into that later. But, you know, it's a complete thing of just, you know, being a different way of learning, basically. You know,
there's definitely is such an opportunity to have all of these other classes that kids might struggle with, math, comprehension, the sciences, you know, all of that kind of stuff, through trades. You know, but obviously our school system and our culture went a different way, you know, and there, you can attribute it to how many different reasons why.
Yeah.
But the fact that that schools started losing trade classes, I think that's where they really started losing students, you know, and losing the ability to keep these kids engaged and learn and be able to be, you know, somebody that looked towards having some sort of a future. You know, I don't believe that, you know, there's kids like me that would have had to necessarily been pushed off into that corner. You know, it's like, well, Timmy doesn't know shit, he can't read for shit, you know, put him in a wood shop class. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's just that you know, I knew working with my hands is what I'm good at. Doesn't mean I'm stupid. You know, I think I'm an intelligent person, but I just learn and I think differently.
Could you just imagine all the kids that never even tried a trade and just continue to take those failures in life, completely growing up, knowing that they're not good at anything in school, but realistically they were just not being exposed to the ways they can be, or what their talent is or their attention is. You know what I mean? It's a scary thought of how many people were just turned into drugs and never went anywhere because they thought they were never going to fucking amount to anything, you know?
Well, there's the guy that Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs, fan. You know, he's kind of become the spokesman of the trades. Yeah. You know, and I know, and I've listened to podcasts and YouTube stuff that he does. And, you know, even, you know, Senate hearings that he's been involved with, and they're asking questions of him and talking about trades and education and that kind of stuff. And he talks about when there was a shift of, you know, when our culture and education started teaching, you know, the whole work smarter, not harder type of deal where, you know, go to school, get an education, become a doctor, become a lawyer, whatever. And
it's good.
You can only have so many doctors and lawyers.
Yeah, we have too many of them now.
And that's the problem we have with kids that come out of college they're so deep in debt. Yeah. And they've all studied, you know, liberal arts or something, you know, thinking that they're going to get a job when they get out of school, or, you know, they've studied some bullshit course that there are no jobs waiting for them with whatever they've just educated themselves with.
You would actually think that with the over, like, how many doctors and fucking all the different people in that trade there is now, like, it's so oversaturated, you'd think it would drive the prices down through like competition. But
they all chose that course because they've been told, oh, you're going to make mad money when you become a lawyer, and you can charge $100 whatever an hour for you to sit and listen and you know, roadblock people in the judicial system. You know, fuck lawyers. I've got a lawyer right now and I fucking hate it. You know?
Yeah, it sucks.
Dealing with lawyers, it's another one of those things that and I know some lawyers that are good people, you know, but it's like one of those things. Things don't happen fast because, you know, they don't make money unless it takes time, and it don't make money unless they have to write letters back and forth between one another, and they don't make money unless they go to court. So it's in their interest that you get fucked.
Exactly. It totally is.
It's sad to say, but, you know, even that's my experience. Same with the healthcare system. It's in their interest that you don't stay healthy. You know?
Yeah, you know, it is crazy because especially here in the DFW area, there's so many. Every time they're building something new, especially on this side of town, we're a little bit more rural out here compared to, like, you know, closer to Dallas. They're building something, you're like, fuck, is this gonna be a new Chili's or some place I can eat or something I can use? And it's another Care Now or another, like, one of those type of, you know, private practitioner type thing or whatever. And it's like, dude, like, it's just oversaturated. But I mean, I get it, you know, but there's just, like you said, man, the debt's outrageous, man. Like, people that don't even go to, like, it's almost like, why would you even want to go other than just, like, to party a little bit and then get out, you know, to learn, you know what I mean? There's no real experience from it now.
Yeah, as far as going to college, you know, there's some kids that get it and do well and others that don't. You know, I have a daughter who just turned 21. She's going to college. She's National Guard. She's going into ROTC, or she's in ROTC, so she's in officer training. You know, she's learning, you know, a lot of life skills that are going to make her, you know, a real intelligent and, you know, and an amazing woman when she gets older. And, you know, I look at her at being someone that, you know, is looking at it the right way. She's not one that goes there and parties. You know, she's got her shit together. I mean, she knows where she wants to be, you know, and she's not just floating in there, not sure. I didn't go to college right out of school because it was like, A, I didn't see the point, and B, I didn't want to go to school anymore, and C, I didn't want to just go to school and waste money not knowing what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I was actually signed, the trade school that I finally went to, I was registered to go there for 3 years. You know, first 2 years, when it got close to going in and finishing enrollment, said to my mom, I'm not ready. I don't want to go to school. And luckily, my parents didn't force me to go. I think that they weren't really happy when it happened 2 years in a row that I was registered to go to school, and when it was about time to start, I'm like, I don't want to go.
So what were you doing in meantime for? Just working or just trying to figure out what you wanted to do?
I was getting that freshman, sophomore shit out of my system. You know?
Okay,
I was hanging with friends and partying, racing cars and making money and blowing money, and it's like...
Yeah.
And when I went to school, all those 18, 19-year-old kids were doing that, but they were blowing money on school too.
Yeah.
You know? And that's another messed up thing about it, is like I feel I was responsible about it, you know. But then when I finally did go, as far as loans and grants, waiting 2 years, I was considered a non-traditional student. So there was a lot of like Pell Grants and other financial aid that wasn't available to me because I had waited.
Yeah.
But then when I did finally go, okay, here's these 18-year-old kids right out of high school that could apply for all of these grants and funding to go to school, and getting crazy amount of money to pay for tuition, pay for food, pay for books, pay for, you know, their housing. But all they were doing was cashing those checks and going buying stereo equipment for their party house and buying beer and just fucking around because they just got out of mom and dad's house.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
that's a good way to look at it and put it. And it you know, my daughter's she's turning 17 in January, so it's not close now, but that's the number that came to mind. And I've been telling her, I was like, you know, kind of the same thing, but you just kind of honed that thought a little bit better for me. Is basically, I don't want her to jump straight into college. I want her to kind of travel, or, you know, try to at least try to get a few things, like you said, out of your system, so that you can kind of go into whatever the next step is, whether it is college or pushing towards a career. You can kind of have a few things out of your system. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So
I believe in that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
You know, I told my daughter, you know, you don't rush into anything. Don't let anybody pressure you into anything.
Yeah.
And she made the choices she wanted to, and she's happy with where she's at, and she's very successful with where she's at. But that wasn't me. I didn't have it together out of high school. I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. You know, hell, my daughter, she could have graduated a year early from high school. I mean, that's how she had her shit together.
Yeah.
You know, so it's but that wasn't me, and that's anybody that's like me.
Yeah.
You know, that's not them. They're not. You know, they got other shit they got to do. You know.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It sounds like you just got yourself a really good kid there, because it's hard to kind of get them to kind of focus and hone in on direction in life. You know, when there's, I guess it all also depends on like the area, the country, the area, the school, and all that stuff, and the kind of friends they have and associate with. But you know, like my daughter's pretty good. You know, she doesn't that I know of. She's not too bad, but at the same time, it's like when I talk to her, you know, trying to understand where her mind is and what's the most important thing going on, or what's you know what I mean. It's still a lot of stupid kid shit, basically.
Yeah, well,
not stupid, but just, you know.
My daughter was a kid just like anybody was a kid. You know, we all pushed boundaries. We all made bad decisions. We all didn't want to deal with the consequences. You know, all that kind of stuff. But she was always a good kid. I always gauged it by, you know, you're at your worst to the people you love. You know, you're comfortable, you know, just being you, and you know that you're, for the most part, you're dealing with unconditional love, that no matter what you do, you're going to be forgiven and you're going to be accepted for who you are. Yeah. So we do that to our families. You know, we right or wrong, we do that, and It's a matter of recognizing that we do it and trying to be better about it. But what I always gauged my daughter by was, okay, if she was left in somebody else's care, or if she was with a friend over the weekend, what did her friend's parents say?
Yeah.
Did they say, "Oh, your daughter's a sweetheart. She's so well-mannered. We like having her around." It's like,
good.
If she's like that around other people, then it's, then you know that you've succeeded in the fact that they respect, other adults.
Yeah.
They respect other people's homes. Respect other people's rules.
That's
She
good.
could do anything she wanted to me. We could get upset with one another. We could argue. We could be mad at each other for a couple days, but ultimately, you don't love them any less.
Yeah.
You may get upset with something they did because you just hope for better for them.
That's a good analogy though, because I think that goes across all boards with everybody in your family.
Oh yeah,
your old lady,
absolutely.
I guess that's why it's that's a good way to put it.
It's the whole "we hurt the ones we love" deal,
Yeah.
And we can all always be better, but it's just you're most comfortable with those people, and you're not afraid of there being radical consequences. If you and I are just buddies and we piss each other off, guys, we get over it pretty easy. Women, they don't necessarily get it over it pretty easy. If you're in business with somebody and you offend them on some sort of personal level, they'll motherfuck you to everybody they know. But
so
if we are good friends and we piss each other off, if we're really friends, we don't go and talk shit about each other behind each other's backs. We may get pissed at each other. We may go fisticuffs with each other. But then when we've done that, we squashed it, and then we hug it out. And that's just the way family is and should be.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the fighting part to that degree, but I think you know what I'm saying.
But that's a really good way to put it. And honestly, I never really thought about it that way, because sometimes I'd be mad at myself why I would almost put customers and people, like you just said, in business in such high regard in my life. And then, not because I don't, love my wife and love everything in my life, but like I put so much emphasis on making sure these people are happy above everybody else.
Oh, I screwed up on that
Yeah.
my fair share of times, thinking that those priorities would always bring rewards to my family and my married life, which that wasn't always true. And I can look back and think, okay, I put way too much priority in work and satisfying an employer, or satisfying a company, or satisfying blah, 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 thinking that all of my efforts would be rewarded, on the back end, when it's not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, having a good foundation and a good life, and being able to provide for your family, if anything, that should reward your employer, that being that good person produces good results for them. It's easy to get it flip-flopped. But it should definitely be your employer should be the one that's like feels rewarded every day that you come in and do a good job, not feeling that they're rewarding you by allowing you to work and work hard and and provide. That's what I've come to realize.
That's
in
a
the
totally
last several
good,
years.
man. Like that's a really good way to put it, because it like another podcast we did with my friend Jeremy, and I brought this up a couple times in other ones, but he talks about this emotional swing that we have with customers and doing business with people. How I guess like you just said, you give them so much power.
Working with customers sucks. It's not fun, especially with what we do. Within the motorcycle industry, we're dealing with something that is totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
Nobody needs the shit that we're pushing.
Yeah.
We can all do without it. But for the customer, it becomes something very emotional. It's an emotional attachment to them. And according to them, they're your only customer, right?
Yeah.
Well, we can't survive on one customer. We have to have several, and we have to do our best to manage all of those. And I know you're You were talking in one of your podcasts about having a customer that it just shit wasn't going right and you had to fire that customer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times in my past, if I had been the one able to make those calls, I would have fired those customers because they made work and life not fun because they felt they had the power. Just because they had the checkbook didn't mean they had power.
Yeah.
But sometimes, the business saw it that way. And rather than fire them, it's like, okay, let's make every concession to make them happy. It's like, to what end do you do that? Keeping your customer happy and returning for more business is absolutely your goal. But there are some people that they are just not worth having. And they're the ones that are going to fight you in the end over the final bill of whatever it is you're building for them.
Yeah.
Because you develop a personal relationship with these people because these are very personal things, especially with what you do with the custom paint. You can have somebody that does all the fabrication work and puts a lot of time and energy into creating something, but the first thing and what really shows it off is going to be the paint on the outside, unless you're building something that's completely raw that highlights all of the work done underneath. So these people get really wrapped into it. I mean, if you're working on a design that a guy has given you a color palette or a theme, or he wants some sort of quote or something inspirational or a memorial to a family member, I mean, how can that shit not be personal? But that doesn't mean that they don't owe you for your time, because we have to choose what is our time worth. And once we choose what our time is worth, we can't discount our time.
Yeah.
I don't care if we're buddies. I still got to keep my doors open. I still got to pay my bills. I still got to buy the materials and take my time to build your shit. If we're buddies, you're not going to say, dude, that's an awful lot of money, man. Can't you do me better than that? It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
If you own a gas station, I don't go in and pump gas and say, dude, come on, can't you make that $1 less a gallon? I mean, come on, we're friends. Nobody does that.
I think that's one of those conversations that pretty much everybody in anything that's not anything in life. I mean, fuck, man. I hear people that, I got a buddy that has an AC company. He has people that, hey man, help me out all the time. And it's like, time is basically what you're selling across the board when it comes to trades. You know what I mean? You're selling your time to do it. And I've noticed that the older you get, it's kind of like it aligns itself with you. The older you get and the more you work on your trade, the better you get. But also the older you get, the more you valuable your time. It's some kind of weird thing that's working opposite of each other.
There's some of us within the metal shaping and fabricating world specifically who I've gotten to know and who have worked with, and we're all very like-minded in the fact that, enough's enough. Don't come to me with an estimate from another guy's shop and say, hey man, I'd really rather you do this work. Can you match this price? Yeah. It's like, your answer has to be no. Yeah. Not, let me take a look at it and let me see. Yeah. It's like, if you really want me to do your work over this guy, why? Yeah. Because I'm going to do a better job. So don't try to cheat me. In my history in the motorcycle world, it was all about, a customer would come in, and of course they're doing all sorts of research. They're looking at magazines, they're watching TV shows, they're on the internet, they're searching for all the things that they want, and it's definitely, champagne dreams, beer budget type shit. And they come in, they say, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is my budget. So you do an estimate for them. You try to be as accurate as possible. You do an estimate. You got a plan for the by the way shit that's going to come up. That's going to make it cost more. It's going to make it take more time. And you try to be as fair as you can. And where I was, inevitably, we would present that estimate to the customer. Maybe it met within their budget. Maybe it blew their budget out of the water. But really, it is what it is. This is what you asked for. This is what it costs. And people just constantly try to whittle you down and bring you down. It's like, oh, can't you give me a better deal on parts? I mean, you're making good margin, give me 10%, 15%. Like, that 15% keeps heat in the building.
Yeah.
We can't just, I can give you a discount. Literally, I could, but I would be stupid to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to save those discounts for the people that maybe have done 5 of those builds and they're coming back again and have not asked for a discount. It's like you want to help the people out that don't.
If somebody comes at me and doesn't ask for a discount and we go through the entire process and everything is gravy and it works great, I'm prone to say, here, I comped you these tires.
You tip the customer for being a good dude.
Yeah. It's like I didn't have to struggle with this guy. You know what? I got crazy margin on tires. I'm gonna give him tires.
Yeah.
And he's gonna
and they'll appreciate that a lot more.
Yeah, you just gave me a free set of tires. I'm like, I can float a set of tires because I have crazy tires are the most overpriced thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that dealing with that whole scenario has made me very much believe that if I'm going to take on a long-term project or a big fabrication project, and a lot of the other guys that I've worked with, this is the way they do it. And it's like, if you want me to do this work, and if you come at me with a tight budget or a low budget, or say I've only got $5,000 to work with, and they well know that it's going to cost more than that, you just got to say, no, I don't think I'm the right guy for you.
Yeah.
But if they want to play ball and they want you to do the work, it's time and materials. Build every 2 weeks. We'll keep at it as long as you can keep up with the checkbook. If this is what you truly want, it's your investment. It's not my investment.
So you found that it's easier to instead of like give someone an exact price for like certain things that you're making.
You can't win doing that.
I know you can 100%.
Can you and I have a conversation and say, history tells me that once you buy this bike, we tear it down, we add this, we add that, we modify this, we have it painted, we get you wheels and tires and brakes, you're going to have a $35,000 investment. Mm-hmm. I can accurately say that that's realistic. Well, now, damn well if this is a project that takes a couple months, that customer is still looking on the internet. Saying, dude, I saw these new brake rotors that Lindell came out with.
Yeah.
It's like, can we use those? Well, yeah. I mean, the rotors that we looked at and quoted you are out of drag, and they're a third of the price or half the price or whatever. So, we can switch, but price is going up. And they don't necessarily think about all of this add-on stuff. If you talk about a price tag at the start, that number doesn't leave their head. Mm-hmm. Even when you do change orders, you physically give them paperwork that says, here's the new price of the new part that you want. It doesn't always click. Mm-hmm. They don't tack on another $200 or $300 to the estimate. They don't tack on another $1,000 when the color that they choose for the paint costs $900 a gallon. Mm-hmm. They don't make that.
Yeah, we get that a lot with paint, where people, we quote them a price for a window of something they like. Within, when I say a window, like a seesaw of like things I'm willing to do, and just a range of what I can do for this price, right?
Right.
And what happens is sometimes they get to a point where they start, like you just said, as the process is going, they start seeing new shit, getting more ideas, and they start growing. And it's like by the time you're ready to really do the sketch or really get down and do the paint work, now they want, some airbrush work, some leaf work, some all this other stuff. And you're like, okay, well we're in a completely different ball game of price now, and sometimes it works out great, but sometimes it's one of those things that they think, oh, well, I'm paying this price and everything that I want is within this price.
Right. Oh, absolutely. That instantly makes me think the last time I was out in California, spending time in a buddy's shop out in Long Beach. His primary deal is engine work. Mm-hmm. He has this customer I think it was a Road Glide, brings a Road Glide in to have some engine work done, and at some point while the engine is being done, the guy shows up with some different covers, engine covers and whatnot, and he wants to have those and some of the stock covers powder coated and some other stuff done and whatever, since the engine's apart. Perfectly logical thing to do. Shit's apart, let's do it now. When it came time to pay the bill, and the extra is on there for the powder coat and the shipping and all the other stuff that goes around to that. The guy's like, this is like $600 more than what you quoted me. It's like, well, yeah, but we powder coated all of this shit and did all this other stuff you wanted to do while the engine's apart. It doesn't just happen for free because the engine's apart. You're saving money on labor now because we're not tearing it apart next month. And this guy just fucking flipped the lid. He just couldn't believe that the price went up. It's like, that's what this shit costs.
Yeah.
The powder coat guy doesn't give it away to me because I'm doing work for you.
Yeah.
You know, he's running a business.
Every once in a while you get that customer that is just on another level of what the fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's because they got a buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I got a buddy that can do that for $100.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you should have gone to him.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you I was going to do it for your buddy's price.
I will say this, that over the last couple of years, since I've been more in tune with certain customers and personalities, I've been able to weed them out. This one in particular that we brought up at the beginning of this conversation, like it was just me not listening to my instincts when I took the job in. You know, it was a good paying job. The work was simplistic at first, and it was his personality that was ultimately the problem. Our personalities didn't really click too well. Like, he was a very needing, on a daily basis, he needed something from me. He needed me to talk to him and call him and send him pictures and all this stuff. And, you know, I just couldn't meet those needs. You know what I mean? And those needs turned in, when he wanted to become the victim, those needs turned into, like, the work instead of what was really the issue. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it sucks, man, because like we were saying at the beginning of this, man, like, it hurt me more to know that there's a customer that I'm not on good terms with than anything, because I don't want to have that bad blood or that bad relationships. And that's I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but I posted the video of this dude talking shit to me on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
You know, and
I've dealt with those kind of people before. You know, I try not to make it personal or not care for or not like these people anymore. Mm-hmm. It usually comes down to some sort of miscommunication. There's just some people that can handle that and other people that can't. Mm-hmm. I've been efficient and inefficient in dealing with that stuff before, but I've been there. Yeah, you do pick up on triggers that in your initial conversations with somebody that just say, you know what, I'm probably not the guy for this job. Mm-hmm. It's tempting to take the money. Yeah, I could really use the money right now, but what are the potential consequences of taking this job? And that's a tough thing to do. I mean, especially self-employed. I mean, there's times it's like, man, I don't want to do this. Yeah, I don't like the idea. I don't want to do the job, but I got a lease payment coming up. Yeah. I got
there's a lot. There's a lot of dynamics that go into play when it comes to that. But I think the most adult thing I've ever done is get to that point where I started saying, you know what, this stop looking at the price tag and start looking at what it's going to take of you in the long run, and is it really going to be worth it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
Once you can kind of, you know, address and walk away, I think that, you know, your business, your brand itself will speak more volumes, because now you have I don't know the right word. I don't want to spend time trying to figure it out, but you know what I mean. Like, you kind of become more professional, I guess.
If you're in that situation, if you can ultimately even, you know, unless it's really one of those deals that it's just a bad situation that you don't want anybody to have to deal with. If you know a guy or a shop that's better well suited to do the job at that point, if you can make a referral and make somebody else happy, you know, that's always a good thing. But there's also other times you don't want to be the one that handed that over to somebody else. You know, it's a tough deal to.
What I've noticed with us is that, especially after the last couple of years, is that you know, once I built enough of a reputation to where the work that I'm doing is stemmed off the work that I've already put out, meaning that someone comes back to me with references as to what they want with my personal work. It's helped me kind of like be more in line with what customers want, because I've started to create my own style or my own flavor of work for people. And then not that there's anything wrong with if some other amazing painter, you know, a customer came in with their work, but then you're faced with trying to meet their expectations with someone else's style and not yours, and that kind of can be a pain in the ass sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as far as dealing with my own customers, I'm just getting my feet wet. You know, I just went out on my own, you know, like little over 2 years ago. So all of my experiences were under somebody else's brand and somebody else's name. So a lot of times it was my place to keep my mouth shut and do what I was told to resolve it. Sometimes I took that well, sometimes I didn't take it well. That's me. That's my problem. I wasn't able to deal with it. But as far as my own name, my own brand, I'm very green as far as how I'm going to address customers in the future. I have it in my head how I want to be. You know, it's very easy for me to say this is how it's going to be. But the reality is, I mean, every one of those situations is different, and you know, maybe there does come that time that I just really need to take that job, you know, regardless of what the consequences might be. But I do know that I have to, going back to what I said before, I've placed a value on my time. You know, with where I am and the resources I currently have, here's what I value my time, and I'm trying real hard to stick to that with everything I do. Yeah. Whether it's me, you know, turning out my mallets and shop bags, or doing fabrication for somebody, whether it's a whole bike or if it's just making them a fuel tank, my time is my time. I base everything off of that. Yeah. You know, everything that I physically do with my hands. Of course, if I outsource something, you know, it's a whole different set of rules and math is involved. But that's kind of where I've kind of put myself, that I don't want to discount myself ever.
So, I mean, I guess to give people more of a background of your story, like when did the fabrication side of you start taking shape, and when did it kind of explode, and how did that process come?
Well, really, starting was definitely when I was a kid. My dad does not consider himself a craftsman, but in my eyes, he is. He made me Star Wars toys when I was a kid. I have a land speeder and a Millennium Falcon that my dad made out of wood. Nice. And I still have those.
That's badass.
And those are some of the most important things I have that I own. But that man doesn't consider himself a craftsman. But everything that I do with my hands started with watching what he would do in his small wood shop. As far as what I do now, you know, it started in high school, messing with cars, doing stuff the wrong way. You know, rather than
that's how you learn.
Rather than doing metal work, you know, rather than fixing a dent, oh, okay, I guess we put Bondo on it and we sand it smooth. You know, to slowly tinkering with my own stuff and learning to do metal shaping on a very novice level, and making mistakes and making good decisions, making bad decisions. It didn't become something that I was paid to do until after I started working for Clockworks, and I had been there, I suppose it had been 2, maybe 3 years before I moved into a position that I was in the shop working all the time. You know, I wore a lot of different hats when I first started, but then when I ended up in the shop, and that, you know, that it was kind of recognized that, okay, doing this is more suited to my skill set, you know, as far as fabricating and designing. And that's when I really started doing more and more of it and getting better as a metal shaper and a welder.
Did you just pretty much get most of your learnings through like other people, or were there like any classes you had kind of took? Or
I hadn't, other than high school welding class and an automotive class. That's the only exposure as far as school I'd ever had in relationship to any kind of fabrication or welding. When I ended up in Clockworks, working there in a fabrication capacity, was definitely sharing time with other fabricators in the shop, and you know, and learning from what they've done, and you know, trying to do the same and say, well, this is how I would do it, and sharing with them and bouncing ideas off. By the time I left there, I was the primary fabricator. There's two other people that worked with me that would do fabrication stuff, but when it came down to stuff that was primarily welding or metal shaping, I was typically the lead on that. I certainly didn't do all of it, but I did most of it. And I had some good resources as far as equipment and tools while I was there, and made do with what we had. By the time I had left, we had started adding some more resources, but when I ended up going out on my own, I started looking towards investing in all the things I had wished I had when I was there. Whether it was making my own tools or buying new tools. I've got a more than average resource when it comes to metal shaping in my shop now than I used to, and that's quite literally where my whole mallet business evolved from. Just as I was investing in myself and making mallets for myself, that's one of the positive things of social media. As soon as you make something and put it out there, people see it and want to know where you got it or how they can get it. So that me investing myself is really how that whole thing started. And my metal shaping, as far as I'm constantly learning. Even though I have opportunities to teach and share what I know, I'm constantly learning. But me taking a lot of pride in trying to push myself to do better in my metal shaping has definitely been since I went out on my own, because that's what I wanted to do more of. And really what I was excited about. And that's evolving into other things, but
that's what I try to tell people a lot is if you invest your attention and time into something, I mean, along the lines of what you already do, you know what I mean? Like say a facet of your business or your skill set, if you really just start putting some eggs in those baskets, not all of them, but enough, you'll start getting some benefit, or you'll start seeing something return from that. And I think that's probably what you're seeing is probably the fact that you started investing in yourself that way.
Whether it's in physical tools or in education, I mean, you are putting tools in your toolbox, so to speak.
Exactly.
And that's, I've made progress, and I'm doing things better, over the last couple of years.
Have you been working with any of the bigger companies? Like, how do you say the one that starts with a B?
Bailey Industrial.
So you have a lot of their products on your Instagram.
When I started investing in tools, I got a job from a customer that could really use the ability for me to have my own English wheel in-house. I was doing stuff all hammer and hand formed, but this job came up. It's like, okay, I'll invest in this wheel, and the job will basically, part of it will pay for that, and part of it will be my profit. And then I did the same thing with a planishing hammer. I invested in a planishing hammer, and in that time span, I had went to one of Bailey's metal shaping classes, basically as an observer, because I was writing a column for Hot Bike magazine at the time, and was going to use that as content for one of the issues. And after that, Bailey had launched one of their contests to win a bunch of equipment, and I had tried their Instagram contest the first year, and did like everybody does in those. You just kind of just repost it and hope you win when they're doing a giveaway. Well, there was a guy that was really pretty diligent and wanted it pretty bad, and he was like posting an entertaining video of some sort, every week, religiously. And I saw him inevitably win it. And then when they went ahead and decided to do the contest again, it's like, okay, I'm going to show no shame. I'm going to, try to have fun, do some self-promotion and promotion for the brand of Bailey, and try to win this contest, which I inevitably did. I mean, I had a lot of fun with it, and got their attention, and won the contest. So that, allowed me the opportunity to put more equipment in my shop. And even more than that, kind of started more of a relationship with them as a company,
Yeah.
Which afforded me the opportunity to travel with them to SEMA and work with them in their display, teaching some metal shaping and be involved in other metal shaping classes. I was just in Wisconsin here a month or so ago. Yeah, probably about a month ago now, teaching a metal shaping class with 3 other metal shapers and with guys from all over the country and even some guys from out of the country. And so that's how that relationship has evolved.
It feels like, there was a big push in like the metal shaping art form, like around the time you started working at Clockworks. So basically around there, and then it kind of got stagnant for about 5, 6, 7 years. And I feel like in the last 3, 4 years, it's blown up again.
Yeah, it without a doubt, the metal shaping as a trade that people now knew was out there and existed was definitely pushed out there by Jesse James and the Motorcycle Mania stuff and the Monster Garage stuff. And then, of course, the American Chopper stuff. No matter what you think of what they produced, facts are facts. They engaged a lot of young kids that were either grade school or middle school age. It's like, you can actually do that?
Yeah.
Regardless of what they produced, it made young kids excited.
Yeah, I say this all the time, I'm not like the biggest fan of their style of motorcycles, but nothing but respect towards, the craftsmanship of the things that they built. I mean, hell, like I said, I used to watch that show religiously when I was a kid. I actually just, over this weekend, went and on Amazon repurchased all the old biker build-off shows, the original ones that they did, the first 3 seasons, and I've been watching those things, and it's taking me back, but it's also showing me a part of the industry how the industry was when I got here, and I've been correlating it to how it feels and how it seems now, and it's just it's better now, but it's worse in some aspects. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It's the whole TV thing is it really ends up, I believe, who you end up getting affiliated with as far as who's the producer, who's the one that's really in charge of it. When I was with Clockworks, we did a biker build off in 2006.
Saw that one.
And that's really what, like it or hate it, that was definitely the catalyst that pushed the bagger stuff out there and started that trend. Clockworks and my involvement, and we certainly didn't start custom baggers. That stuff existed before that happened. We did it a lot just basically on necessity, because that's what guys in our part of the world rode. If they had a motorcycle in the garage, it was usually a touring bike, because the owner and mama would get on back and they'd go for a ride. Because where we are, it's long straight highways. So you want something comfortable. But at that time, it was different in regards that there was a lot of money being thrown at the industry through TV exposure. And again, that had a lot to do with what Jesse James did and with what Orange County Choppers did, that people saw the ability to get marketing dollars from this new thing called custom motorcycles, right? And it was far from new. Been around for a long time. It was around before I was around. So now it's different, because social media exists. In the early 2000s, when that really started to come out, into the mid to late 2000s, when the industry was just going full tilt boogie, and just there was money, guys getting $150,000 to build custom bikes. Now, there's ability for a guy in his garage to get really popular and to be able to create some cool stuff and expose it to a lot of people without television. I don't need Discovery Channel to be known and to get my product in front of the world. And there's some guys that do it and are very humble about it and do great work. And there's guys that are on the total opposite end of the spectrum that don't do any work and are very boastful of what they do or don't do.
Really proud of bolting things
on. And they're very famous for it, and kudos to them, I guess. But
well, the good thing about social media is that you get to be the producer, the director, sometimes a star, and all these different things. But it is complicated, and you almost got to give an extra, pat on the shoulder to those people that can be skilled tradesmen, but also can put out quality videos. Like I know you do a YouTube channel as well. You do a lot of videos and stuff on there. That shit takes time. Editing.
It does. Yeah.
It's, we want to do it with our podcast and with our work, but man, like when you're busy and you already have 100 things on your plate, it's like, man, like, do I need another hat right now? But realistically, I feel like the future is that, you kind of get to a cap, which I feel like we kind of have with our paint work. Like, there's definitely painters out there that are far more skilled than we are, far more expensive, and I don't really want to go any higher than I'm comfortable where I'm at, but I just want to like use that and start another path. Like you said before, I want to, now that I'm doing this and I built all these connections over the last 15 years in this industry, or 12, 13, something like that. Doing things like this podcast and sharing knowledge and shit like that has been a much more rewarding experience in this first 3 months that we've done this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's finding ways of sharing that kind of stuff, and now that's been a lot more fun to me than pinstriping.
Well, when I ended up on my own, I jumped right in and embraced Instagram. To use it as a marketing tool. I mean, before I was on my own, I would share what I was doing at work and share life and share stuff that I wanted my family to see. But as soon as I was on my own, it's like, okay, now how can I exploit this tool to advertise for me, and share who I am, share what I do, and try to create business from it.
That's when you end up putting the photography hat on. You end up putting the videography and all these other things on, because like you said, you're sharing, so you also have the control over how you're being viewed and perceived to people. You know what I mean? And you don't want to put shit out there, whether it's shitty work or shitty quality of your representation of your work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've just very recently tried to do more with more informative videos and create something on YouTube. I don't have a lot of videos on YouTube. I don't have a lot of followers by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something I'm trying to do more of, just because in recent history, really the first time I recognized it was down here in Dallas for IMS this year. I had several young guys come up to me and just surprised to see me there. Mm-hmm. I happened to be in Oklahoma working for a buddy in Stillwater, and IMS is in Dallas this weekend. I'm this close. I'm going to go down there, see some friends.
You do that grease and gears thing with them, right?
I did it with them in Dallas because I contacted Chris Callen from Cycle Source and said, hey, I know you guys are going to be down there. I'm heading down, because I'm in Oklahoma. Hopefully we can meet up and whatever. And after I said that, he said, do you want to come do something on the stage? And I'm like, if you want me to, I'll be there.
Were you not at Rot Rally last year as well?
Yeah, I was at Rot Rally. I got asked to do Rot Rally last year and Sturgis 2 years ago.
My Gold FXR, that's the day that I brought that bike down. It was the day I finished it. It wasn't run. It ran, but brakes weren't bled. I was trying to ride it down here, but we ran out of time. We were supposed to be there Thursday. We ended up getting there Friday. Yeah. But that was the first day that I got that shit done. It was pretty exciting.
So, but where I was going when I came to Dallas for IMS, I got approached by enough young guys that follow what I do, that were surprised I was there, introduced themselves, and just said, hey man, I'm a big fan of your work and appreciate what you do, keep up the good work, love your videos, and you're really informative. I like that you share what you're doing. And until that happened, it never really registered that what I was doing was more than me just sharing what I was doing to draw attention to my business to get work. what surprised me is how much it might be influencing guys that are just watching what I'm doing, and I didn't realize it. I got it there in Dallas, and I got it again in Milwaukee at Mama Tried. So much so that I had a young guy from New Jersey that flew into Milwaukee and met me there for the show. And the plan was that he was going to come back with me to South Dakota and spend a week, and we were going to do one-on-one metal shaping, and he was going to learn. But when we were at Mama Tried, we're walking around, and I'm getting stopped by these people, which was really new for me, and it felt weird.
Yeah.
But the positive thing I got out of it, I said to him, I said, you don't need to stop every time I stop. I don't know what's really going on right now, but if I get stopped and you want to go look at bikes, go look at bikes. But it was more of the same type of thing that these guys who I may have seen on Instagram before, I may follow what they do, I may not know them at all, they were saying kind of the same thing. I love what you do. I appreciate when you share. I mean, I really... Nobody else is doing this, which, isn't true. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about metal shaping. But when there was one young guy that I talked to, and he said the same thing that the guy before him said, I said, humor me for a second. I said to him, there's a lot of metal shaping stuff on YouTube. I mean, if that's what you're looking for, there's a lot of it out there. I am by no means an authority, nor do I have the most or the best content. Yeah. But I'm curious, why are you so geeked out that I'm here and wanted to meet me and tell me how good my stuff was when I don't understand it? It's like, why is that? And what he said to me, that it's like, oh, okay, me trying to be fun and humorous and not take myself too seriously, but yet still be able to share something is evidently translating really well with some of these guys. And they don't feel like they're being told how to do something. Because when I teach, I say, this is how I do it. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. This is just how I do it. Yeah. If you're listening to me or watching me do something and something clicks in your head, it's like, why would he do it that way? I mean, by all means, say something. Ask me why. And if you think there's a different way to do it, or you may have done it a different way, let's try it. Yeah. That might be an opportunity for me to learn something just because you thought you had a stupid question. Yeah. So I think that's what it is, the fact that I'm just trying to have fun and share something. That it's just, for whatever reason, it's translating, and some of these guys are saying, hey, do more of it. And so that's a long way around to get to say that as far as my YouTube, I'm trying to do more of it. Like you said, it takes an exorbitant amount of time. I'm not a audio video editor, but I asked around to guys that do it, and it's like, what's a good, easy program to work with to edit video from my iPhone, my Canon, and my GoPro, and be able to use all that stuff. And it's so far it's working that guys that watch it, they enjoy it, and they say they learned something. So, if to anybody that's listening to this whole deal, if you do follow my stuff, I tell everybody, if you have a question, you want to see something, shoot me a message. Yeah. I had a guy from India that had a question, and it took me a couple weeks, but I ended up making an instructional video specifically for him to answer his question, because there was no way I was going to answer it texting through Instagram. So, I'm enjoying doing that. Hopefully I can do more of it and get better at it.
Yeah, I feel like that's I'm not going to say the future of things, but it's a good way to like open up bigger doors and other doors that we're not going to probably catch on Instagram or going to shows. But like when you put these videos out and you got some dude that finds your video over just binge watching or going down a rabbit hole on YouTube, and they find your work and your page, and like I said, a video really can show a lot of personality. It can show a lot more content than a picture can. Like I can take a picture of myself on a bike from a certain angle and look like, I'm not going to go as far as Brad Pitt, but I can look pretty fucking cool, right? But then you see me in person, I'm fucking short, going bald, belly. You know, I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a perception thing on Instagram. Is we got the control of making ourselves look great still, making our work look great still. But YouTube and even these podcasts, we're showing more personality, and I think people connect more with that, just like someone connects with music. You know, because they're hearing words, they're feeling words, and shit like that. And then on YouTube, they're seeing it. They're seeing the physical things take place. And the reason why podcasts are great and why I try to tell everybody they should do one is because there's no production value. I mean, there's no production like time. It's buy the shit, have a little brother like we dealt with earlier that knows how to do this stuff, and then set it up and roll with it and then upload it and it's done. There's no editing or any of that type of stuff. So, but like I said, you can reach a lot of people, but you know, it goes back to the learning thing. Some people learn or they gain from hearing. Some people gain from seeing. Some people gain from doing. Right. You know.
Yep.
So, just different forms. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're saying. You know, the YouTube thing, you know, which is certainly not specific to me, but any of us, you know, you have a light goes on in the dash of your car. You know, you pull up a new app on your phone, or you get a new computer program, and it's like, how the hell do I do this? What's the first thing you do? YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, this guy's going to tell me how to do it, you know, and you watch an informative video and you try to do it yourself, and if you can't quite get it, maybe you look for another YouTube video that explains it in a different manner to try to negotiate through whatever it is you're working on.
It's crazy how some of those really simplistic things will have millions of views, and you're like, fuck, dude, like, I'm pouring my life into this explanation of how to, you know, palette a pinstripe brush, and it's like 36 views. You know what I mean?
Well, like you say, you get down that rabbit hole on YouTube, and somehow you end up in 10 things to do with a Bic lighter. You know? How can I tear apart this Bic lighter and glue matchsticks and rubber bands and paper clips to it to make it something else? And it's got 3 million views. It's like...
people.
I mean, I've clicked on those. I mean, maybe it's just me, me, clicked on it out of curiosity. It's like, well, that's stupid, and you know, and backed up to what I was really trying to watch. But maybe that's why they get those million views, because people like me, that's like, what the fuck could that all be about?
It is crazy, man. You know, we talked to. Are you familiar with the guys from Simpson, like Scott and those guys that work at Simpson Helmets?
I don't know them. I know who you're talking about, but I don't know
the
them.
Very first podcast we ever did with Scott, he had some great statistics, and I never searched to back them up, but I'm just going to take his word for it. He was talking about how only 3% of the population in the United States ride motorcycles or are registered motorcycle owners. 3% is a small number. I mean, on the vast amount of people, so that's still like 10 million or so people.
Yeah.
But then you keep breaking that down into subcategories and subcultures in motorcycles, and it's all in that 3%. So the Harley scene might only be 0.8, 0.9, or 1%, or whatever the case may be. It gets kind of, you know, it's a lot different than like when you're selling something in the motorcycle industry. You're selling something to a much, much smaller audience than the people that made fidget spinners at every fucking gas station across the country.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So when you start trying to think about a marketing kind of mentality and how do you get, you know, obviously you want to like inspire people into the motorcycle industry. I don't know if more people would be better or not, but I feel like every year people die out, people freshmen in. You know, it's kind of like senior and freshman. So
it's a conversation that a lot of people within the industry are having right now, and with very differing opinions. You know, I had a conversation somewhat related to that at every table I had a meal at while I was in Austin over the last few days.
Yeah. You know? What about that show? Like the handbook shows while you're here in Texas right now, but I stopped through last year. Never I've heard of it, never checked it out. Went through there last year. There's some pretty amazing bikes down there. And what's the premise of the show?
Well, the Revival Cycles started the show, and they got into the motorcycle industry through the growth of the cafe racer segment. I mean, that's what they were known for, along with a handful of other shops that's kind of rode or pushed that wave within the motorcycle community. and their show is still got a lot of that. The metric cafe racer.
Yeah, that's what I saw last year.
Sport bike kind of custom, taking a sport bike or a cruiser platform and morphing it into something of your own design. But they've expanded beyond that to encompass a real vast variety of custom motorcycles. A lot of these, I call them curated shows because I hate the I'm an invited builder bullshit that goes on.
Yeah.
Because that tends to stroke egos.
Yeah.
But I like curated because they're choosing pieces of art that they want to show.
Yeah.
Everyone, whether you go to the Brooklyn Invitational, Mama Tried. I've never been to the one show. I've not been to the Moto show. Is that one out in California? And then you've got the Hand Built show. They've all got kind of a different vibe to them. Mama Tried is very much the Harley chopper scene. Most of it, trying to relive the chopper scene of the 60s, 70s type stuff. Yet with a little bit of variety, they'll have some really cool race type stuff. Whereas the Hand Built show is very much directed at bikes that people are trying their best to be the best craftsman they can be when building a custom motorcycle.
So it's a great platform to show off people that have skills such as yourself, basically.
Yeah, there are some quote unquote choppers there. Where you'll go and I love the Mama Tried show for what it is. Where there you're going to see a lot of shovel head, pan head, knucklehead choppers that are very much nasty, purpose built. How the fuck did that motorcycle even ride in here? Type bikes, which are cool. I love those too. Where the Hand Built show does have bikes that are based off of pan heads and shovel heads but you're not going to see a dirty, nasty, how is this even running type motorcycle, where it's typically the chopper scene. It's high, narrow handlebars, bunny ear handlebars, peanut Frisco tanks, rigids, king, queen seat, slouchy leather saddlebag type looking bikes. Where if there's a shovel head, pan head type bike at this show, they may have the same geometry, they may have the same at a glance appearance of being a chopper, but it's a whole different motorcycle. Will Ramsey, Faith Forgotten, you know who Will is?
No, I don't.
He had a bike there, all titanium chassis he built.
Oh shit.
Will does amazing framework. He does, most of the stuff he does is primarily out of stainless so that his frames are left raw metal. But this bike he did is out of titanium. I mean, this bike weighs nothing. So you have that chopper stuff there that, like I said, at a glance, going down the highway, it's going to look and sound just like the other one, but the bike is immaculate. Then on the flip side, you're going to have a kid that maybe picked up a Yamaha 750 or a Honda 750 off of Craigslist for $200. He chopped up the frame, put a modern inverted front end, and maybe put a single-sided swing arm off of a Ducati on it. Did all sorts of hand-shaped aluminum tank tail section, Rizoma controls and digital gauges, and just built this wicked clean cafe racer. But put so much time and detail into it that he just created a beautiful piece of art that performs, and rides. So it's still chopper scene. We're hacking up bikes and making them our own. It's just that particular show is very much focused at craftsmanship and how clean, how detailed can I make it. There was a lot of bikes there that you look at them and to the average person, you're just going to assume it's a production motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because it is so well thought out, so fit and finish. There's a guy named Walt Siegel. If you don't know who Walt is, you know, he produces limited production bikes, but you know, other than using a Ducati engine and some, you know, purchased parts, he's designing and fabricating these bikes that, you know, to the untrained eye, you're just going to assume, well, that's a factory Ducati. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Everything else is, this guy is designed and made himself.
Well, I think like you said it best, but you know, it is still capturing a cultural thing, which is choppers and, you know, cafe racers and things like that, but it's still its own thing. So, you know, you would have to go to Mama Tried to get that experience of what that vibe is about, and you would still have to come to Hand Built to see what they're promoting and how, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's same cult, same scene, different magazine, basically.
There's some bikes that cross over. One year I went to Brooklyn Invitational, Mama Tried, Born Free, and I went to the Hand Built show. And of those 4 venues, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, and the South,
yeah.
I saw some of the same bikes at all of those shows. You know, just because I knew the builder, I knew the bike, and recognized that they had their bike there. You know, so there is stuff that crosses over all of them.
I want to check out Brooklyn Invitational. That's one of the ones I want to go to next. I want to ride up north. It's one of my next goals. But yeah, Mama Tried too. It's like every year I talk about going, but it's always that first trip of the year, man. It's just like, oh fuck. You know?
it's a long way from here.
Yeah.
You know.
That's cool, man. But so you brought a bike down here for that, didn't you, or did you just come down?
No, I did. Friend Robert Pandia lives in Georgetown, just north of Austin. If you don't recognize the name, he's the PR guy that basically relaunched Indian motorcycles for Polaris, and he had worked in the same capacity for Victory, but he and I have been friends for a long time, and we had talked about doing projects together. And at one point, late last year, he sent me some pictures of his Indian Chief that he's kind of pieced together. He bought a 46 Indian Chief roller, and then ended up finding and purchasing a 47 Chief engine, you know, and got himself a riding motorcycle, far from finished, but a bike he could ride.
The basics.
Yeah, and he approached me by sending me a few pictures of it and said, hey, would you be interested in doing some aluminum fenders and maybe some number plates? He said, I have this idea that I want to kind of make a period looking beach racer, you know, street racer from the 50s out of this 46, 47 Chief. I'm like, sure, you know, what do you want to do? And we talked a little bit back and forth, and then he actually brought the bike up to me in South Dakota after Christmas, and we spent a couple days talking about this project and his concept. And he quite literally, he's a PR guy. I mean, he tries to get people excited about a brand and do advertising campaigns and all the kind of stuff related to launching different brands. So that's the way his brain thinks about this stuff. He had written a fictional story to how this motorcycle could have come into existence. You know, he's a whole backstory about a guy and his life experiences that led him to building a motorcycle. So I was tasked with interpreting that story and his vision and what he wanted to have in a motorcycle to tell that story. So basically what he wanted was for this Indian Chief to look like a bike that a guy built in the 70s or built in the 50s that maybe he'd just returned from World War II. He had this motorcycle. He's a progressive thinker and wanted to build something fresh and new as far as like a race bike out of this. Now, if it's at some point gets tucked into a barn and gets a tarp thrown over it and it got pulled out of the barn today, what might it look like? And that was basically the direction I was given.
That's got to be tough. Like, building a bike off words, basically.
Yeah, but
Fun challenge.
We had some images of things that kind of had the feel or what kind of what stuff for inspiration. I think somewhat the same way you would with a paint job, but yeah, it's old 40s Indian. I did a lot of aluminum work. It's got a fairing and a tail section and some other cool bits to just kind of make it look like it's built by somebody who maybe he serviced aircraft in the military and built a motorcycle. So.
How did you pretty much you started the FXR show in Sturgis, right?
Yeah.
So how did building that show, how did it start? How did what was your major involvement other than it's yours? I mean, like what's the story behind that? We have a huge FXR listener base,
right. Well, I'll since we're doing it this way, I'll just tell you the long story how it happened. Living and working within the motorcycle industry, you find yourself riding a motorcycle less than your friends who ride motorcycles. And all your buddies that see that you go to Daytona, you go to Giddy Up, you go to this, they go to that. It's like, dude, you're traveling all the time, getting to hang out, ride bikes, partying, this, that, and other thing. It's like, well, yeah, we call it networking, but but it's still work. You're not going. If you're representing your brand and you're setting up a booth somewhere and you're there for 2 weeks, you're there working.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're on vacation. But you find yourself riding less and less. At least where I was riding less and less, and I was really sick and tired of the motorcycle industry. For a couple years, I had been looking for an FXR, and just wanted to have one to ride, something to potentially do some custom work to, and really try to get back to what inspired me in custom motorcycles when I was younger, when you'd see stuff in magazines. When I was young and I first got into motorcycles, I wasn't a Harley guy.
Yeah.
I got into street bikes, I rode sport bikes, and that's what I was into. But if you picked up an Easy Rider magazine or something like that, or the old Chopper, old hot bike magazines, there were guys that were doing custom work, and it was usually based off of an FXR platform if it was a Harley, at least in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
You're talking about guys like Billy Westbrook, Don Hotop, Donnie Smith, Arlen Ness. That's the platform those guys were using. But it just was, at that point, I was just searching for something new to ride and to be excited about. And one year in Sturgis, one came available, and made a deal with the Harley Davidson dealership because they got this FXR traded in, and got home after Sturgis. It was really unmolested, was pretty much bone stock. I put a different seat. It had forward controls. I put mid controls back on it. I put on some short stubby risers and some Sportster bars and made it fit me to where I was comfortable, and ended up deciding, okay, I'm going to go on a trip. I've got friends that are on the motorcycle Cannonball, and this year the motorcycle Cannonball was stopping in Milwaukee and zigzagging its way to Sturgis. And I'm like, I'm going to go out there, meet up with some friends, ride along with the Cannonball for a week, just clear my head and to actually get out and ride a little bit. And I enjoyed that ride so much, even though the motorcycle Cannonball, I don't know if you're familiar with that, it's all vintage motorcycles. At that time, it was like pre-1920 motorcycles.
Damn.
So they're only going down the highway like 40, 45 miles an hour tops.
Damn.
I get up in the morning to go out to Milwaukee, and I jam out there 80 miles an hour the whole way just to turn around and come back through Iowa and Nebraska and South Dakota at 30 to 40 miles an hour. It was really hard the first day to slow down.
Yeah.
But just that interaction with other riders and motorcyclists and actually putting miles on a bike and having fun. And at one point I ended up connecting with Beaner, and like the last 200 or 300 miles, he and I just jammed and got ahead of everybody, and I just had a great time. And it made me want to ride more again when I got home. So I started riding and, trying to ride more, even if it was just me leaving after work and going riding for a half hour before I got home, whatever it was. And fast forward to the end of the year, the winter comes, and, I had been, had gotten out of, being on my bike, of course, and kind of fell back into that groove of feeling lethargic, and my sister, of all people, decides that she's going to, for her New Year's resolution, she is going to create. She's an artist. She's a clothing textile designer. She decided, I'm going to create a new piece of art every day for a year. I'm going to chisel out enough time for myself to do something that's not related to work, even though I do art every day. I'm going to do something not related to work for me, for myself, and create art every day. I'm like, wow, that every day create some new piece of art, which she did. I'm like, well, I don't know that I can manage that, but maybe I need to do something like that, remove myself from my everyday art of building motorcycles to something for me every day. And I said, you know what? It's shitty out. There's snow on the ground. I want to fucking ride. I'm going to see if I can ride to work, when the weather is nice. And so I went out one day, and it was actually snowing, and I said to my wife, I'm going to go see if I can ride in this. And she's like, you're fucking crazy. It's stupid. And I still had my regular street tires on the bike, and I got out of the driveway and then just started slowly spinning in the frontage road in front of the house. My feet are on the ground and I'm on the gas, and it's just kind of turning around in the snow and the ice. And I made my way back to the house and was like, nope, that's not going to work. And she's telling me, yeah, you're stupid. I knew that wasn't going to work. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to give up. And I went to dirt bike or a metric bike shop in town and said, hey, you got any takeoff dirt tires to fit these wheels? And like, well, what? Those are odd size. Those are odd wheel sizes for a dirt bike, but I might have some old ones that come off an old bike. They ran some of those sizes. And they're like, well, it's for a Harley. And they're like, well, okay. And putting dirt bike tires on a Harley, isn't anything new. I don't think Bill Dodge builds a bike that doesn't have some sort of a dirt tire on the front. So anyway, he did have a takeoff tire that come off of some customer's bike, and it happened to fit the rear wheel on my FXR. I had put an 18 on the rear, and so I put a dirt bike tire on the rear. And the next time it snowed, it happened to be a Friday, and I'm like, I'm going to try riding to work. And I go and take it for a ride, and I'm doing good. I'm plowing through the snow, and there's even a car in the ditch on the way to work, and I got too overconfident, ended up dropping the bike, and it slides out from under me. I get up, I pick up the bike, and I keep on going, and I go to work. But at that point, I decided, this is doable. I just need to get a good front tire, because the front end folded out in front of me, and probably need to put some ice racing studs in the tires or whatever. And that ride evolved into my New Year's resolution, which was FXR Friday. I started posting a picture of me before I left for work on Friday with my FXR, you know, and of course it's in the winter in South Dakota. So some days it was decent. Some days it was like 20, 30 degrees. Other days it was 10, 15 degrees below zero.
Yeah.
I just started riding every Friday, no matter what the weather was like. My goal was to see if I could do it every Friday for a year. I went a year and a half before I missed a Friday, and then it's like, okay, I did that. So
That's a pretty cool thing. I've known of FXR Friday due to the hashtag that you know Hot Bike used to put out, but I didn't know the story behind it. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
so now I want to ride. My FXR's in pieces right now.
Yeah, you won't find any of my FXR Friday stuff unless you scroll all the way back. Well, this will be the 5th year of the show, so you'll have to scroll back 5-6 years worth of FXR Friday hashtags to find any of this shit. But that's where it started. And yeah, Holt started using it, and other guys started using it after watching me post stuff, and it became its own thing, and you know, people use it all the time. From that, me making those posts every Friday, FXR guys, of course, started to reach out to me through social media. It's like, oh, that's bitchin', man. I got an FXR. I've got a 93, blah, 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 blah. Or somebody would reach out and say, oh, I used to have an FXR. It was the best bike I had. I got it from my old man, and I traded it for a Softail, and it's the biggest mistake I ever made. I mean, I started hearing all of these stories from FXR people. You know, FXR people, before this trend came around to being its whole entity, you know, were very much, you know, a kind of a small segment of riders, but they're very fanatical about their FXR and that it's the best Harley platform Harley's ever had, and you know, all the urban legends and lore and whatever that people share about the FXR platform. And they start hearing all these stories, which I had said. And I think this was one of the last years I had been to the V Twin Expo in Cincinnati. You know, my boss Brian at Clockworks, you know, he said, I mean, the V Twin Expo was over a Friday, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna miss FXR Friday. He's like, well, you want to take it with? I mean, there's probably going to be room in the trailer, and so we took the FXR with, and I got it out of the trailer and at least went for a ride in downtown Cincinnati in the middle of the winter on my FXR, and had a conversation with a couple guys about what I'm telling you now, with all these people that were reaching out to me about their FXRs, and I said, do you think I could put together a show, you know, like during Sturgis, and just invite people to come out and show their FXRs? Do you think that's like a valid idea? And it's like, yeah, you probably could. I don't know why not, you know. And in the conversation, we started talking about, well, where would a guy do it? And it's like, well, maybe you could do it in City Park. You know, nothing happens in City Park anymore. They kind of outlawed camping within the city limits of Sturgis because of the craziness that would happen at City Park. So that's where how it evolved, and where the idea inevitably came to just try putting on a show. And so I decided, well, I'll start asking questions from people in Sturgis, you know, as far as from the Visitors Bureau or the rally director, to see if it's something I could do. And quite honestly, it was super easy. At that point, the city of Sturgis was looking to bring shows and other events into Sturgis because they had become such Nazis as far as taxes and permits and everything else. They had pushed everybody out to these campgrounds. So it was really easy for me to get okay to do this. And so yeah, the first year in City Park, putting on this show, you know, I just kind of put out the word through social media and through friends within the industry that I was going to do this, and got some stuff donated for prizes, and chose right away to do it as a charity type thing, so I could just raise some money and give back to a local charity. And in the first year, I thought, you know, I might get 20 bikes based on the response I've gotten from people, and that'd be cool. Yeah. I mean, if we got 20 FXRs in City Park for people to check out, that'd be cool. But we had over 60, you know, that showed up. Had guys that wrote in just because they heard about it and they wanted to wanted to be a part of it, and it's definitely snowballed from there. The last year we were in City Park was an anniversary year, and we had 103 FXRs in the park that year. The year after that, it was coming off an anniversary, knowing that, okay, the numbers were really high this year because it was an anniversary rally year. The numbers are going to be down. So maybe, I've had plenty of Dyna guys want to be involved because obviously they're following the exact same trends and style. Yeah. And I said, well, all right, well, it's still the FXR show, but we'll add a Dyna class. Just to invite those guys to be part of it. And what's that going to hurt? I mean, some FXR guys were butthurt. It's like, no, this is an FXR only thing, man. It's like, wow, come on. I'm doing this because it's motorcycles, and it's about checking out other guys' shit and just having conversations about our bikes and just enjoying it. Not going there worrying about being the big dick with the biggest front wheel on your stupid fucking bagger, and wanting to say I'm the baddest bagger builder on the planet. That's kind
I got the biggest trailer.
Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? Because they all look the same until a guy like you gets a hold of it and paints it.
Yeah.
We don't need to go that route, but
I can go there.
Maybe we will. So that's what the show was all about. So we added the Dyna class, and the first year we had, again, almost 100 FXRs and 30 Dynas. And, at that point, I'm like, this has got to be the biggest attended bike show.
Say that again. How many did you have? That's that after the anniversary year?
The first year with the Dynas, we had just under 100 FXRs and about 30 Dynas.
Still, so I mean, it's still good though, because like you said, for the charity, you're still filling up and getting some entry fees and stuff to go for the charity.
Yeah, it's and it was fine. Everybody still enjoyed themselves. There wasn't any backlash about Dynas being part of the show anymore. I mean, it brought a good welcome element to the show. Yeah. So it's the FXR show and Dyna mixer.
That's the way to put it. I like that.
So, but without dragging on and on about it, that's how it came about. It came from me being tired and disinterested with motorcycles and the motorcycle industry, that those things just kind of snowballed and led into it, and it became its own thing.
I've been developing this thought/concept that, you just said you did it, and this is what I do. Sometimes when I get kind of complacent and feel like, what's the point? What's the next move? Sometimes taking on that extra role of like putting on a show or putting on an event or bringing people together that revigorates you, re-inspires you to like, feel relevant. You know what I mean? Like it gives you some kind of like jolt of energy by taking on responsibility that you're not you're only benefiting from the joy of doing and creating something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me it was definitely because I was getting something back in enjoying being part of the motorcycle industry again. And it obviously felt good being able to give back to the charity, financially. It feels pretty good to hand over a wad of cash that amounts to several $1,000s from just asking a bunch of guys with motorcycles to come hang out. And I'll give away a bunch of motorcycle parts, and we'll sell a bunch of T-shirts. It's a huge investment of time. It does get stressful come July. We're just about in May, and I really got to get on it to get some of this stuff organized. Without going into detail, it was something that my wife and I did together. I was very much the PR, the face of it, the guy that solicited all of the donations and everything and got people to get there. But my wife was the one that made it happen the day of the show. The logistics, helping all of our volunteers have jobs and taking care of registration and all of that kind of stuff. Well, life happens, and she no longer wants to be my wife, so that element of the show is gone. And that's what I couldn't deal with it last year because You know, my wife leaving me just left me in a fucking hole, and I didn't know up from down, and I kind of had to rely on other people to help make the show happen last year. But I'm trying to dedicate myself to making it what it was again this year. Last year, everybody had fun. Nobody complained about last year, but I knew where we were falling short. But this year, hopefully, it's going to come back around. But in the next couple months, I really have to get my feet moving and get people in place to help me make it happen. That's where I'm at right now with the show. The people within the industry that support the show are still there. They're happy to know that I'm back, taking care of it, and wanting to push it back to where it was and make it successful again. It's added a new element to it this year. It's like, I've got to do something that's going to kind of kickstart this thing again because it fell short last year, and I wanted to do some sort of a giveaway, a big raffle giveaway, and Paco stepped up to donate an FXR frame, swing arm, fuel tank for me to build a roller off of. So we're going to have, along with the trophies for the show and the normal raffle type stuff that we do, also going to have a dedicated raffle to give away as much of a completed roller as I can get together from sponsors. You know, I've got the frame's ordered. I'll probably have a frame within a month or so, and to be able to promote having that physically in my hands, and then try to get, you know, some suspension and wheels. I already have Pirelli Metzler on board to get me tires. I think I might have wheels. You know,
Legends is right there. I don't know why. Have they stepped up to be more of a part of the show? I mean, they're seeming like a big.
Well, Legend Suspension, I know Jesse. I've known him for several years, being in the industry. You know, they were very, very much a part of the industry when air ride suspension was the deal.
Yeah.
You know, and then when that went away, he was pretty quiet. And then when performance upgrades started to come around, that's what was cool to do, you know, he came around to doing quality coilover type suspension stuff. They as a manufacturer have not been involved before. I know I've reached out to them, but you know, they everybody gets solicited by everybody to sponsor shows, so they're not currently part of the show, but that doesn't mean they can't be. But
one of my favorite experiences from the show last year, and we touched this topic a lot about shows and how a lot of bike shows can really breed a really negative mindset in people while they're there. And I never felt more like around a bunch of people that were just happy to be around these bikes. Like nobody cared who won or who lost. It was just
that's why it's grown the way it has. I mean, even the other guys that are doing FXR shows and Dyna shows, I've not been to any of them because they're just far away, and I haven't been to any of them. So I don't know what the vibe is at their show, but I think it's a lot of the same guys are traveling. I mean, there's guys that the first couple years when a couple of these shows popped up, they're like trying to start a whole deal where guys travel to all of the FXR shows. You know, like, okay, if that's your deal, go for it. But that's very much what I wanted my show to be, you know, and I said it in my press releases in the past few years. I said, if you're here to win a check and a trophy, this isn't the place for you. There's other places for you to take your bagger to win those trophies. Because we're not, and I'm not about stirring up drama. You know, if guys are there to, you know, boast on how good they are of building bikes, or that they're the trendsetter that started all this purpose-built performance stuff, it's like, you know, get over your fucking self. Did not, you know.
I've seen nothing but like from the performance show that I got to check out in Orlando for Daytona, another great show. I think that the crowd is just cool, and they're in check. I think right now, like all the business, most of the business, I can't speak on everyone that I've seen so far, from the people at Born Free to, you know, your show and Sturgis, and, you know, all the things I did last year. Everything surrounded the Dyna and FXR scene and performance motorcycle kind of thing has been nothing but positive vibes and positive people. You know, shops aren't, you know, high-fiving you and saying like your bike, and soon you turn your back, you're like, oh, talking shit, this guy, he's a fag, blah blah blah, whatever, he can't build a bike. It's just dudes that are cool, that are just happy to see other bikes like it. I guess the scene's small enough, you know, it's not as like this big conglomerate like some areas of the motorcycle industry can be.
There's inevitably every year, the way I do the show, and this speaks to what you're saying, the way I do the show is I try to make it as unpolitical and drama-free as I can when it comes to trophies and and giving out places of trophies. Anybody who enters a bike basically gets a ballot, and they get to vote for their top 3 bikes. And those choices are given points.
Yeah.
So in theory, if one guy happens to be everybody's 3rd favorite bike, he's going to get a lot of points. You know, and if there's one guy who has a really cool bike, but you know not many people dig on it, but he gets several first places, he might not do as well as the guy that gets everybody's 3rd place vote. I tried to make it as unmolestable of a popular vote type contest. So that being said, you know, you're going to have a guy that the first place inevitably is usually the trickiest bike of the show. I'm proud to say that I'm happy with everybody that's ever taken a first place trophy in the show. It's like it was a bike that deserved it. Doesn't necessarily mean there wasn't another bike that deserved it, but the guy that won did because his was the most liked bike. I had a guy that took 3rd or 4th place one year, and his bike was bone fucking stock, but it was a charity, beautiful FXRT that he had gone out and searched for original parts to get this bike back to as factory correct as possible. Just like a guy does with a knucklehead restoration, he did with his FXR. The guys that were riding choppered FXRs and the guys that were riding full custom FXRs saw that, respected it, geeked out about it, and gave the guy recognition for it. And that's one thing I think I'm proud of, is like you're saying, everybody's digging on everybody's stuff because it's all cool. We're all here because we like these Harley Davidsons for whatever reason. Yes, we chose the FXR or the Dyna platform to do it, and we're just here to hang out, have fun. Maybe we'll take home some parts. Maybe we won't, but at least I'll get a T-shirt, some stickers, and have a few beers with new friends and old friends, and feel good about it. So
that's where the show needs to be. I mean, I've you know been a part of a lot of the big wheel bagger shows. So like, you know, fucking not hot bike, but like American Bagger, they put the baddest bagger on. And like the first year they ever did it, it really felt like it had substance. It felt like they really judged the bikes. And then then it turned into like a dude walking around, hey man, vote for my bike, I'll vote for yours. Hey, you know what I mean? And then so then you get a guy that wins, you know, baddest bagger Sturgis 2015 or something like that, right? But it was him walking around trying to get a lot of people to vote for him and stuff like that. And then, you know, I feel like that doesn't really give him the credibility to say that he's the baddest bagger builder of Sturgis. You know what I mean? It's like, you're the best, like, you raised enough awareness for it, or whatever you want to call it, you know?
Well, like any trend, like the big wheel bagger trend, you know, it's all that stuff is always a double-edged sword. You know, when it first becomes a style, you know, it's a style of its own for a reason. It came to be for whatever reason. And then just like the big wheel chopper, fat tire chopper stuff grew, it grew to a point it was okay. A 180 or a 200 rear wheel was big. Well, now that's not big enough. 220s are now big. Well, that's not big enough. And 300s and 350s, to the point that those big wheels were so big and so perverted that they were stupid. There's no reason for it. It doesn't perform better. It doesn't handle better. It doesn't do anything better. It steals horsepower. You just spent all this money building this big badass engine. Then what do? You put dead weight on the end of it and take all of that horsepower and torque away. So there's no point for it. The big front wheels are the same way. You know, the guy that builds a bike with 30s on the front of it knows, it's the best handling bike you can buy. It's like, well, I've ridden them. No, it's not. Yes, I understand you can go down the highway and it doesn't shake when you ride it. I get it. Yes, you can go ride it in the canyons. Yes, I get it. Is it better? Fuck no. logic and physics tells me it's not.
Yeah.
As far as that's concerned, I don't like it. Because I like stuff that works. I like performance-oriented stuff. If I built bikes, I build them all with 17-inch wheels because I get the best tire selection with 17-inch wheels. And it's a big enough wheel that you get to see it if you get a nice wheel. The big wheel stuff, I don't care for it. The other side of it is obviously that it's good for the industry and that it gives people the opportunity to be creative, gives them opportunity to get business because somebody buys a bike and they put a 23 on it. Well, I'm going to get one. I'm going to put a 26 on it. So you get these guys that want to just compete within their group of guys that's how those wheels grew. Yeah. So as far as the industry is concerned, yes, whenever those things come around, it's good for the industry because it rejuvenates, it creates more opportunities, more guys start building parts, more guys get jobs, more guys get paint jobs, because it pushes all those different facets of the industry. So that's why I say it's double-edged sword.
Yeah, and I'm very opinionated about it, but I spent my whole foothold in the Harley industry was because of big wheel baggers. That's what brought me in. I was on sport bikes like yourself before then. And I think last year at Sturgis, there was a particular guy that was running around Sturgis, green bike, used to stand on the seat and dance at all these places, you know what I mean? And I took offense to that, you know what I mean? And Hot Bike posted a picture of him on Instagram or Facebook once, and I had made a comment about it. I was drunk at the time, but it was serious. I pretty much told him, I was like, man, you're making a joke, you're clowning, you're making a clown of yourself in the industry. Like, if you think about like some people that used to build some, like I said, I'm watching these old biker build-off shows. So yes, the fat tire chopper was the thing, like you just said, it kept growing and growing and becoming ridiculous. But there was some amazing builders, fabricators. There was some amazing work that was done. But all it took was one clown, and I'm not trying to talk shit, but just, one company of making clown style bikes to where everything that was done in that scene has now been overshadowed by this one facet of motorcycle. Yeah,
that's just that it gets to that point that you can only make it so obnoxious for so long that,
and then it's over.
That what was cool about the trend, like I said perverted, I mean it literally, that something that is good to a degree has now been perverted to something that's no longer any good. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, so even though I don't dabble as much into that industry as I used to, I still I got a couple magazine covers. I'm proud of those, and they were with big wheel bikes. You know what I mean? And when in 10 years from now, when I'm telling my story or someone's asking me where I started, and I tell them it was those bikes, I don't want them to be like, oh, you like the ones you used to dance on the seats on, and you know what I mean? I don't. I'm kind of like worried, even though I shouldn't be because it's not my responsibility, but I'm just like, I don't want, the scene's already gay enough. I don't need it to get any gayer anytime soon, so that basically it's a joke if it isn't already.
I mean, I was part of building some fat tire choppers in the day. I mean, we did some of those builds.
Yeah.
I've done a couple baggers with 26s. I mean, I haven't gone fully big wheel, and I never will. But I've built those bikes and been involved in building those bikes that I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Like you say, you're proud of the bike that you built. I don't think, just to go back in history to the big wheel fat bikes, there was the same guys and maybe even the same guy doing the same shit on choppers and bobbers before it was baggers.
Yeah.
That's just, if we're talking about the same guy, that's just his personality, and that's just what has made him, a figure within the industry, and that's gotten him the attention that he's gotten and is part of his business. And the people that dig that and think that's cool are the ones that wear his t-shirts and buy his bikes and his parts. That's fine. That's good for him. I certainly don't think anything that he's done reflects at all on me. Because I've not associated myself with that.
And that's 100% the way I need to look at things. You get trapped in your thoughts, man, like we were talking about earlier in this podcast. You start thinking about, the legacy, if you would even call that, of what you see all these great builders over time, you know what I mean, from the beginning of Sturgis, and, these people that have made huge staples in the industry, like Ness and all these guys like that, right? You know, Dave Perowitz, all these people. And you start thinking like, well, I'm doing it now, you know, in my form, in my way of expression. I'm doing it with paint, or I'm doing it with the light modifications I do to bikes. I want to leave something behind. I want to be remembered in this scene somehow. And I maybe it's dumb to want that or think about that.
Well, no, I mean, I think we all want to be recognized for what we do and respected for what we do, you know, from our industry or our peers.
Yeah.
You know, that's when I was building bikes under another brand and another name, and there was another face to the company getting credit for what I did, I took pride in the fact that the other guys that were in the same position I was, working for somebody else whose name was, you know, that was in the magazine, those guys respected what I did. They knew the product that we were putting out was a lot of my work. The industry people, you know, knew my role within the company and what I did. I mean, the success of my show, the FXR show, is directly attributed to the fact that I have a lot of friends within the industry that were just willing to support what it was I was doing. Even the first year that it was new, that there was no proof that anybody was going to show up, I had a fair amount of friends within the industry that just said, yeah, whatever you need, man. You know, we're friends. If you think this is a good idea, I'm more than happy to be involved. So and I had that conversation with a young guy that was asking, like, how do you break into this? How do you get these relationships? And it's like, really, if it's genuine, it's going to happen. You know, I have friends, you know, that within the industry that work for, you know, parts manufacturers, and I said, you know, I've got a friend with company XYZ, you know, every now and again I'll see him post something on Instagram, and I'll send him a direct message and just say, hey man, what's up? I see you got a new dog, you know. Yeah. What's its name? Or, you know, how's the new shop build coming along? You know, and we'll, you know, either we'll Instagram or drop a text, or we'll, you know, hey man, shoot me a call when you got a minute. You know,
yeah.
If you actually invest in these people, like we as human beings should invest in one another in a real level and become friends with them, that's what really gets you to be part of this industry. It's not, you know, how many magazine covers do I get?
Yeah.
You know, how many people like my Instagram page? How many times that my shit gets reposted? That's all phony. You know, even sometimes what I do is me marketing myself. I don't try to be phony, but, you know, I ham it up sometimes to make stuff lighthearted and fun.
Yeah.
If you know me in real life, I'm really pretty quiet. You know, I'll if I sit in a room of people or sit down for dinner, I'm very much the guy that sits and listens.
Yeah.
And I don't interject unless I really feel I have something to say. If I get wound up about it, look out, you're not going to shut me up, and you might get pissed off at what I have to say, but I that's who I am in public, you know, but I try to be more outgoing through my social media to just, you know, do my marketing, you know, and that too has brought me out of my shell a little bit in public too. You know, it's made me more comfortable, you know, so that's something that tool has given me. But, you know, the guy that we may both be talking about, you know, he is, if it's the same guy, he is quite literally two different people. When there's people and cameras, whether they're still cameras or video cameras, he becomes that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know him real well, but I have had conversations with him when it's just me and him looking at a bike.
Yeah.
And he's a different person. I don't know if that's something that he's aware of, or if it's just part of his personality. But, you know, if we're able to make those connections that are real, that aren't revolving around, oh, what kind of exposure is this going to get me?
Yeah.
You know, if we're actually investing in each other in a real human level, those are the relationships that will carry you on, that will make you significant in this industry, will make you have longevity, will keep you here when this when this FXR and Dyna fad fades away and the next thing comes on, that you still have the opportunity to be relevant because you have real friendships in the industry.
Yeah.
Not just somebody that sold some shocks for you because they were the guy riding wheelies on his FXR for the last 5 years. You know, that'll go away.
Yeah, I mean, people will grow out of scenes, and you know, I was going to ask you that too, but going off that other topic, it's you know, even with this podcast, man, it's kind of breeded a, I'm not going to say false, but it's like if me and you were sitting, if I were talking at the show and we had any of this conversation, because I do a podcast now, my immediate thought would be like, fuck, man, we should be recording this, which I feel like is very disingenuous. Like it's not fair, but I feel, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you were saying about social media, where you're like, put it like this. I just found out one of my customers is somebody pretty. I don't know how to describe him, but my immediate thought when I found out who he was, I was like, dude, you got to do a podcast with me. And I felt like, man, if I was in his shoes, I probably would want to just go to dinner and hang out with you and stuff like that. Yeah. So I felt really asshole-ish to ask him that, even though, I mean, that's the first, you know, I spoke to you at IMS,
yeah,
and I wanted to ask you to do a podcast then, but I was like, man, I was just, you know what I mean? It's kind of a weird thing, because I've met a few people through doing this podcast, and now I've you know, they've changed my thought process and ideas, but it does feel a little ungenuine when you're doing it this way, instead of like if me and you knew each other and we were talking, I was like, man, you know, we need to have one of our conversations one day on a podcast.
Well, you know, I understand your perspective.
Yeah.
I do. The thing that I put in my head when you messaged me and asked me if I wanted to, it's like, yeah, we don't know each other at all, other than we met very briefly in Sturgis, then we talked very briefly again at IMS. The thing that I look at it with is, you know, I enjoy having these conversations. Like I said, every time I sat down at a table with friends within the industry in Austin, these kind of conversations evolve.
Yeah.
You know, because and going back to, these are the people that are my friends. You know, they're not just people I work with within the industry. These are people that I've known for years, or that I'm getting to know through mutual relationships. And we have these conversations, and we have these concerns about this industry that we work with, and how are we going to make it better? How are we going to get past this wave of Instagram, social media, phony stuff that is influencing areas of this industry, that maybe is getting somebody more exposure, maybe it's getting somebody more business, but is it really healthy for the industry? What happens when that balloon pops? You know, there's people within social media that have no depth. You know, they have no substance. They are just Insta famous. They are just somebody that's using their followers to be influencers. That's what they're called, influencers. They may have only been riding motorcycles for 2-3 years because it became fashionable. Yet a brand can see them and see the followers and say, all right, I'm going to use this guy for whatever I can get out of him. Maybe we got to give him a free motorcycle. Maybe we got to cart him around the country and make him our guy. But those people don't have substance. They aren't going to last.
Well, did you see that? My brother just tagged me in something on Facebook about Harley just had a whole bunch of college. Fuck, I don't know the right word. They had these interns, I guess, and they put them on bikes and they're making them ride around the country and do social media on it now. And I was thinking about guys that I know that already do that stuff, that are real. I mean, I don't know what level of substance you're kind of referring to, but to me, like, they are real enthusiasts. They do have knowledge of bikes. They do work on them in some form or fashion. They bring substance to the industry or culture or scene. And I feel like, man, like, you guys are paying these little, you know, whatever you're doing for these little kids, but there's already are people out there like that. You're just not on, you know.
The difference is that person.
Yeah.
You know, until recently, I've never looked at leveraging myself for those kind of opportunities. You know, the companies that are taking these people and using them to create advertising campaigns are they're picking the low hanging fruit basically. You know, who is out there that is making themselves accessible to brands to leverage their social media for that company's benefit. You know, they're actively pursuing that. You know, if I can get a sponsorship from this company XYZ for 10 grand for a year, you know, to go around and advertise for them, and if I can get an agreement with this company for 15 grand to travel around for the year and represent them, you know, I can earn a living repping these brands as an influencer because I have a good social media following. They may not be attributing anything tangible to the industry. They may not be a builder, they may not be a fabricator, a painter, or any of those things. They've just created a social media following, people interested in what they do, even if it's just interesting because they travel places and see cool things. They're able to leverage that and get paid by companies to do it and earn a living doing it. Where the guys that you're talking about, which may be a guy like you or a guy like me, this is what I do for a living. You know, I'm hoping to stay busy with customer projects to earn a living, and I haven't ever really thought about, okay, you know, I have less than 9,000 followers on my Instagram. That's a lot compared to my friends back home. That's a lot compared to, you know, a lot of people, you know, that I know, and even people I know within the industry. It ain't shit compared to other people I know within the industry that have 30,000 or 60,000 followers. You know, I have a friend that runs an Instagram page that's got like 3 million followers. You know, and so I haven't until recently started thinking about, okay, I'm trying to create a brand, you know, and I'm just literally trying to stay busy, to pay my bills and try to enjoy life. You know, I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to be rich. I'm not trying to be on a television show, but I am creating a brand, and that brand has value. Are there ways that I can leverage my influence or my social media presence, you know, to benefit me and benefit a potential sponsor?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you just want your brand to have some real substance or authenticity to it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we all do. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was jealous of the people that got paid to ride around country. That's something I plan to do in my life. But I don't think that I would want to take money from a company to go do that. I like the fact that I can, like you said earlier, I can jump on a bike and go on a trip and clear my head and come back ready to bang out some projects, bang out some new work, or come back with a fresh pair of eyes, basically. But
in what you're going to do, and you're coming away from it, you're going to maybe you're going to post a video of you looking over the Grand Canyon saying, this is a bitchin' place, I should have come here sooner. Yeah. Where there's another mindset that's like, I'm going to ride company XYZ's bike to the Grand Canyon, and I'm gonna load my story full of every second of bullshit I can to make that brand think I'm doing them justice by just posting all of this stuff because I rode their bike to the Grand Canyon and back.
I always tell a lot of people that are, you know, not that I'm the best at social media, but, you know, I give it way too much attention. I'll be honest with you on that. To me, it's about the quality of the content. It's about finding good photos. It's finding ways of being artistic with photography, in my opinion. And instead of having 40 pictures of the same thing, find the one that really speaks to you the best way and that can really paint the best picture, right? We've started trying to do more stories. I mean, like I said, it's a real fine line between crossing over to we're being too much on there and not enough, and
it's definitely quality over quantity. I mean, it's like anything. It's like, is what I'm posting relevant to who I am and what I'm doing?
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Am I sharing an image that I want people to know me for? You know, there's times I've posted stuff that I thought was funny or whatever, and looked at it and thought to myself, did I just post that because I thought it was funny, or does that? I mean. Yeah. Why did I share that? And I look at it, and it's like, you know what? I've got people that have made comments like, oh, that's cool, that's bitchin', and other people that have liked it, but it's like, what if this is the first time somebody comes to my Instagram page and this is the number one thing on my feed and this is what they see, or maybe this is the thing that hits all the right algorithms and ends up on the search page, and I get 1,500 likes out of nowhere. It's like, is that what I want people to associate me with because it was just some funny meme about the president or whatever? It's so I'll look at it and I was like, I'll delete it. It's like, okay, I don't do that. Don't do that again, Joe. I
try. So. When I was younger, I used to, younger meaning like social media was also young too at the time. Facebook just came out and stuff like that. I used to get real opinionated and put all kinds of thoughts on there. My religious views and things like that. And I just realized that it's like you said, it's not helping or taking away, and that's what really made Facebook things that's not fun no more. There's too many opinions out there.
You can't post an opinion to just share your opinion without it becoming an argument with somebody.
Yeah. So I try to. I mainly focus on Instagram, where I can literally just show the work we're doing, the direction we're going, and highlight the things that I feel like are important about our brand, and then on my personal one, highlight the things that I'm proud of in my life. You know what I mean? And I guess we get a lot of people, just like you were saying. When you walk up to places, you got, man, I love your podcast, or man, I love your paint, or man, I love the rides that you took last year, and all these kind of things. Well, I remember when I first started riding, and I didn't have the friends that I have all the way across the country, or even the friends I have now in within my city to go nerd out on motorcycles with. He might have saw my shit. He's really influenced by our perception of the motorcycle industry through us. And so when he finally sees this, man, he's just like geeked out. Like, fuck, I just want to sit down and talk like you talk to everybody, So it's a weird dynamic of trying to really understand everybody's level of when they're coming into your existence, or into your just seeing who you are and understanding who you are. And they might be a guy that's been in the industry since the 70s, or it might be a guy that just got a bike 2 months ago and he's like super geeked out on your shit. You know what I mean? So it's a weird dynamic trying to, stay true, basically.
Yeah, it's within whether it's custom motorcycles or custom cars, any of this stuff that is basically a want, not a need. We have to consider ourselves very fortunate that we are able to make any sort of living doing it. I try to remind myself of it when I get, I can get very opinionated and very stubborn about things within the industry that irritate me.
Yeah.
And think, this is so stupid. Why do we keep allowing it to happen? And a friend can tell me, well, why it's happening because of this, this, and this, and it's just the way it works. But I'll stick to my guns and just be like, I know, but that's stupid. It's not doing anybody any good. And I'll just get really worked up and angry about it. And there'll be at some point, maybe there's a trigger in something I said that I heard myself say, or a friend says something that in my head I just have to tell myself, what I do every day is not necessary for anything. I do nothing to improve life. Nothing I do is relevant to a level of us existing. There's a lot of stuff that way. Obviously, television and movies are that way too. But that's kind of my reality check to myself, that if I did not exist, and if this industry did not exist,
it's a great way to humble yourself.
The world still goes on. Granted, we'd lose a quality of life type thing that we enjoy, but nothing I do is necessary.
Yeah. The apocalypse happens. We're probably some of the guys that are going to be like, fuck, I wish I learned how to hunt and start fires and shit.
I'm fortunate.
You do that.
I camp, I hunt. I'm pretty resourceful. That's the way we have to be up north.
We're starting to. I'm about a year and a half deep into being a camper now, but still not a hunter. So, but man, that's that you said it just a while ago was a good thing, because it's hard not to have opinions about things. I have so many opinions, and I'm not saying they're right. You know, they're all just like thoughts that I cling to. And until I have the right conversation with somebody that can help me understand them, or, you know, cancel them out of my thought process, it's hard not to have them.
Yeah.
You know, what you see them on Instagram, you see it in a magazine, you see it, you know, when Discovery Channel decides to use this shop instead of that shop, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Harley decides to go with interns over people that do this for a living.
You made reference to those guys, and I made the exact same kind of venting text to a friend just a few weeks ago. It was actually during Daytona Bike Week. There was something that came out through social media from a brand, and people that they were using to promote their brand. And I'd had a conversation with a friend about this guy before, and we both know him, and it's just irritating. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, that's just the way the marketing within the world works now. And then this happened, and I texted him in the middle of the night. It's just like, when is this shit gonna end? And it's like, it happened again. And I forwarded the Instagram feed that I saw, and it's like, we were just talking about this, and now it's happened again to the same level, if not worse. And it's just, why does it keep doing this? And I said, you know, and like you said, you know, I wouldn't mind getting that opportunity, but really I see that, and it's like, I can give them a list of a dozen guys right now that are relevant and real and actually have substance that do it with this guy.
Yeah.
If you really want somebody that knows what they're talking about and really lives this life and can do it.
Yeah.
And actually has social media presence and the ability to talk on camera and is photogenic
things,
and can do that, but knows what the fuck he's talking about, I can tell you who those guys are. I can tell you it's not him, but those guys are like-minded to the people that are that have the advertising dollars or are in those marketing positions, that they understand each other. They know how to stroke each other's egos is what it comes down to. And, you know, granted, you know, if you want to leverage yourself and get opportunities, you do have to a degree stroke egos, you know.
Yeah, I think
and also make people interested and excited about what you do, you know, so that you have substance as well. But, you know, those people do need to feel like they're getting a good deal, or they're getting the right guy, or getting somebody that understands them.
Well, sometimes they just want a puppet. You know what I mean? They just want
they
somebody.
Absolutely do that.
They want someone that's gonna, you know, act the way that they want them to act on camera, regardless of how that's gonna be for, you know, their reputation after the camera stopped.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, back a couple years back, whenever they tried to reboot that whole biker build-off shit, you know, I sat through one of the pilot recordings for that thing, and, you know, of course at the time, and I don't even know how it would be now, but I'm not that good in front of a camera. I think I might be a little bit better now after talking to this microphone for most of this year. But, you know, they want you to do this, and then tell them you don't like this shop, and then give the camera the finger. And I'm like, I'm not a finger flipper offer, dude. That's not my thing. It's like, can I, you know, like, I have a different type of personality, but you're trying to make me be this typical concept of a pissed off biker, and that's just not the way that I want to be seen, and that's not the way I think you should be trying to promote the industry. You know, it's not about being a badass. I mean, there's some nerds in this shit. You know, there's a lot of different dynamics of people, and that's what makes it great. So, you know, we can have this conversation about it sucks that me and you, or you and whoever else, aren't in a position to create that type of TV show or content or whatever the case may be, because you have we all have a better understanding of it. We just lack the connection to, you know, Discovery Channel or this company or that company or a fucking camera crew or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that with podcasts and YouTube and social media, like it's probably the closest we're going to get, you know?
Yeah, I think it's totally different worlds, but I think it's got to be similar to the fact, like, you know, just because somebody becomes a famous actor and gets a lot of movie deals, doesn't mean that there isn't a better actor working on a stage in some small town in the middle of nowhere. They just may not have the
They didn't have to go see Harry Weinstein.
I don't know about that, and it's not necessarily that they don't have they couldn't have the opportunities. It's just they aren't their character isn't the one that makes them push for that type of exposure. There's a guy that's in a small town that is just part of his small town theater group, and that's where he'll always be. He wasn't the one to pick up and drop everything to move to Hollywood on the chance. So that every type of person, I think, has that same potential within whatever they do. Some know the right way to go out there and go after it and get it. If that means that they have to sell themselves literally or figuratively, and that they're okay with making that decision, if it's selling themselves out to get it and they're okay with it, that's how they did it. My personality, I can be serious, I can be fun, I can be goofy, I can be the butt of my own joke and have fun doing that, but I don't know that I could ever, I certainly wouldn't be like that guy that you're talking about, that just because the producer of the show was standing there and telling me, motherfuck this guy or that guy for some added drama, I won't do that, and was asked to do it and didn't do it when we did Discovery Channel Build Off. We were in the second week of our build, and we had been using a mock-up motor from S&S for this build, and we were building this bike that was purposed to be land speed raced, and working with S&S on it, and S&S was building us a new twin cam, 124 cubic inch twin cam B2 heads. They were throwing everything they could at it, for this land speed bike, and they were like we were. They were under the gun, working as fast as they could, and they were going to bring the engine from La Crosse, Wisconsin, to us in Mitchell, South Dakota, while we were there with the camera crew. And the day that they were coming, just like any of us, they didn't get on the road as early as they had wanted to. They're having problems with the truck or whatever, and shit's not going right, so they're behind schedule. They were like, okay, we'll just keep us posted. We're here. We'll be ready to get at it whenever you guys get here. Well, the producer of our episode of the Discovery Channel Build Off, of course, was fully aware of that, because we're all waiting for this engine to show up. And she gets me in front of the camera and she said, so you just heard from S&S. They're behind schedule. They're holding you up. You may not get done in time. How does that make you feel that they've let you down? And I'm like, well, they haven't let us down. They built this engine. It exists. They're on their way here. They're going to get here as soon as they can, and we'll get it done. It'll be all right. It's like, yeah, but they were supposed to be here at whatever time, and they're not here now. It's like they're really holding you up, and it's like, I understand what you're looking for, but I'm not going to give you what you're looking for. Maybe you can talk one of the other guys into the shop of doing that, but they're helping us out. When they get here, they get here. So they try that. Of course, they want to create drama, and I wasn't going to throw them under the bus just for potentially getting some airtime.
See, that exact thing happened, because here in Dallas, there's another famous painter, way more known than I am, that he's the guy that I learned how to paint from, and I worked with him for 8-9 years on and off. And I'm not saying that once the Discovery Channel people find out the kind of beef that we have, which I don't really have beef with the guy. I love the guy to death. He just doesn't like me. But they wanted us to talk shit on the cameras, and I didn't do it. I didn't get on there, and that's what they wanted me to say. They wanted me to throw the finger at this guy, basically. You know what I mean? I think that's why I didn't get on there, because I wasn't willing to play game with him. But he was, and he has a video which I posted up. I'm probably reposted again on Instagram, where he was just in a very nice way, was doing kind of that, just talking down on me, which is cool, you know. But it's just so funny how like they really wanted, you know, I guess it's all the spinoff of that American Chopper shit. The drama is what I feel like they think is what people, maybe some NASCAR fan, nothing wrong with NASCAR fans, but just some, you know, dude that goes to work, gets off, gets on the couch and spends the rest of his night watching TV. Maybe that's what that guy wants to see. Or maybe he just wants to see somebody else's life with substance, you know?
A lot of those reality shows that, for whatever reason, they're successful, they like prey on showing people at their lowest. You know, the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
I mean, what a bunch of fuck-ups that whole crew was. Whether they're like that in real life or not, I have no idea. I don't know any of them, but it just showed these kids at their lowest.
Yeah.
You know?
That period right before high school and college.
Yeah. And then they become celebrities and they have wealth and influence and all this stuff. It's like, I don't get it, but why it became such a thing that people love to watch. It's watching a train wreck, you know, it's wild, like man. You hear tires screech. It's like you look to see the crash. You know, that's what those television shows are like. It's like, you know, they're going to do something retarded. They're going to do something
they got
stupid.
The cameras are rolling.
Yeah.
You know, if you think back into like the 2000s, you know, around the time when you guys did the Discovery Channel thing, and up until the point probably right before Instagram kind of took hold in 2012 or 11, you know, I feel like more people were in touch with like reality TV shows and Big Brother and all these contests and this lifestyle based show and, you know, all that stuff. And then Instagram came along and I think implemented like the idea of travel and the idea of this and all this type of shit. And I think now you're seeing more TV shows and more, you know, like movies and documentaries about like people wanting to, you know, live minimalistic and drive vans and just get out of this like hustle and bustle thing of the way the world is now, you know. And I just feel like it was, I you know, I give Instagram credit for that because people started posting pictures. And I guess Flickr used to be the same way and Tumblr and all those things back in the day, but they just showed the world in a very simplistic form. You know, the beauties of South Dakota, the beauties of all these places where most of us in our 20s growing up in the mid 2000s were like, man, I'm going to save up my money. I'm going to Miami and I'm going to party. You know, and now, you know, I think a lot of people are, man, I'm going to save up my money because I want to go hike through the Black Hills or I want to go see Utah and all these crazy places that weren't on people's radars before then.
I've within conversations again about the motorcycle industry, you know, we end up talking a lot about how do you get new younger riders into a lifestyle that as baby boomers get older and die off, the number of motorcyclists will drop off dramatically because of that, the size of that generation and the fact that the motorcycle industry has followed the baby boomer generation as they went from the chopper scene to a softail scene to the touring scene to the trike scene to the no more scene. You know, they were such a big segment of our population. It's like, how do you get younger riders to fill that void? And that, of course, is the big conversation that the industry has now, and that's where you see manufacturers, you know, trying to get the younger riders in. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail. But the thing that was, you know, I don't know if it was directly told to me verbatim this way or if it's an opinion that I've developed from things that I've heard people say, but the generation, whatever they want to label it, millennial or whatever generation it is that they say is the largest growing consumer demographic right now, that they're more into, like you're saying, investing their money in experiences rather than material things. So what that does for the motorcycle industry is they may want to have the experience of being a motorcycle rider, knowing what it's like to build a bike in your garage, hop on it and ride cross country, or just be involved in the local bike scene and bike night. They want that experience, but they're not going to go to a Harley dealership and invest 20 grand in a bike. They're going to go to their phone. They're going to go to Craigslist. They're going to go to eBay. They're going to find, it's like, well, shit, here's this 79 Honda whatever.
Yeah.
Guy says it's got new tires and it runs. It was just serviced. He's got too many bikes. He needs to sell something, and it's $350.
Yeah.
It's like, I got $400 burning a hole in my pocket. I can go buy that bike and fill it full of a tank of gas for the next month for $50.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what they'll do. They'll invest in that experience on that motorcycle, not a brand new unit from XYZ manufacturer. If they're a new rider,
yeah,
they may progress in years to buying something new from a manufacturer. But you know, there's so many used bikes out there, and it's so easy to find them now. You know that.
Well, I feel like what needs to kind of happen probably with Harley, which you know, like how it was in the '90s where you had to get on a waiting list to get a bike.
Oh yeah.
Production was down.
That conversation comes up too, where they made one just enough to be one short of the demand.
Yeah.
You know, there was always somebody waiting.
Well, you know, of course, I don't know any like real, you know, corporate style numbers and targets and whether they're hitting them or not. But I mean, it felt like Harley had its young crowd with the Dyna. It really did. And that Dyna was spinning people off into either going maybe not so much in their favor back to FXRs and choppers, or it was making them want to jump into bigger bikes like a bagger, right? So their flagship model, the Road Glide, Street Glide, Road King, you know. But then, you know, you kill the Dyna instead of, you know, progressively make it better like they did with the Lowrider S. You know what I mean? It's a much better bike than the previous Dynas. You kill it and you bring the Softail out. You do a horrible marketing job. You raise the price on everything and essentially lower the cost of production from what I've heard. I don't know the stats behind that. And then now people are $2,000 shy of a bagger with buying this, you know, new Softail line that has, you know, and Harley's kind of done a lot to kill aftermarket, you know, stuff within their business. You know, like I love Harley to death and I don't like to bash them and I'm not trying to. I'm not a fan of some of the decisions, and of course I don't know the whole story, so you know, maybe through conversations maybe you know more about it, maybe you understand it in a different light than I do. But I see it like much customers out there see it like, whoa, like this bike is now there's one frame for 5 model or 2 different models, right?
Right. Now
it's cheaper technically because you're only making one frame. I don't know how much cheaper it is in theory, but you know, like I think they lost the mark there. They did a good job with these new Sportsters they brought out, some pretty cool little designs and cool little upgrades, but the baggers are definitely a better deal. They made better improvements to the bagger, offering a blacked out edition, which is what everybody was doing to them anyway once they bought them. But you know, the Dyna could have used a mid model between the S and, you know, a regular street bob. They could have used something with a little bit more tuning, but not quite a full blown big motor. You know, maybe something with a real fairing, kind of like the old T Sports and stuff like that. You know,
it would definitely be fun to be like a fly on the wall in the marketing or the forecasting meetings of how they come to the decisions they do. You know, I can't say that I have any inside information to understand why, you know, they totally brought a new platform by eliminating 2 other platforms. I don't know why that came to be. I have no idea. I'm sure there's plenty of people that, you know.
I've ridden the bikes. They're nice. Yeah, they are very comfortable. There's a couple things that I would have probably changed. Like I rode one with forward controls and some really low bars, so of course I couldn't really ride it the way I like to ride bikes. But
well, that's definitely odd choices that they make. I mean, if you take two motorcycles, you got the one that's got low bars, the big engine, they put forward controls on it. The one that's got high bars and the small engine, they put the mid controls on it. That makes absolutely no sense to me. If you're building a performance bike, you need to be putting your feet underneath your ass. So put the mid controls on it. So they're weird decisions that I don't understand what they make or why they make them that way. But somebody within the design team decides that. Maybe they do it, you know, to force the the possibility for after purchase sales.
Yeah.
You know, that obviously is okay. We're not going to do this quite right, just so that we can sell additional parts later.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like with engines. You know,
Yeah.
if you went into the Chevy dealership and bought a new truck, and as soon as you got done signing the papers to buy it, they handed it over to the guy in the engine performance department. The guy says, "All right, you got a great bike, but just imagine if we did this stage 2 upgrade to that engine in that truck, then you'd really have something. You'd really be able to haul the mail." Can you imagine if you went into a GM dealership to buy a truck and then that's what they did after you bought a truck?
Yeah.
But that's what they do at a Harley dealership.
Yeah.
They sell you they sell you on this great motorcycle, but then the first thing they want to do is tell you, "Oh, we can make it better."
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you just make it better?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good argument.
But that's, I mean, the P&A catalog is where they make their money.
Yeah.
The dealerships don't make their money on selling units.
Yeah.
They don't have a huge margin to begin with, you know, and if they're offering incentives to purchase the bike, they're just discounting and losing their margin that they already had.
Yeah.
So that's their only opportunity to really make profits, is selling T-shirts and
Service
the
and stuff.
apparel and the parts and the service and the follow-up and getting you immersed in their culture, in their dealership, to get you in every day to spend that $100.
Mm-hmm.
What's HD stand for? $100. You know, that's their business model. That's how they make money.
Going back to what you said, though, I with talking about what's going to inspire the new people that want to invest more in experiences, I think that's why the vintage chopper culture has exploded the way it has over the last 5 years or 4 years. I don't even know if it's been that long, because it's like a relatively low investment. Like you said, it's a used bike. You know, they're maybe coming into it $4, $5, $6 deep. They get this excitement of like tinkering with something, you know what I mean? And then they're going to these more carefree, open, you know, different vibes, these camping and these, you know, parties that aren't like these big money pits. Like a lot of people that are just into motorcycles through like Giddy Ups and Born Frees and, you know, Mama Trieds, they might be turned off by something like Sturgis, thinking that Sturgis is this big fucking, you know, massive. You got to have money to go to Sturgis. You got to be ready to spend money, which you definitely do. There's still a lot to be gained. There's still a lot of experiences there. So, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're, I don't know where I was going with that, but.
Well, there's certainly a part of the motorcycle culture that is in that chopper scene, panhead, shovelhead, knucklehead choppers, that they're very much trying to recreate and relive what they may have seen in kids and their dads' chopper magazines. You know, you can, even some of the guys that follow that culture and have embedded themselves in it as a photographer and that document it. You know, if you made their images black and white, like the images that would have been in Easy Rider or in the Wind magazine in the late 70s, early 80s, you know, maybe when these guys were young and their dad or their uncle had, you know, Easy Rider magazines, you put them next to each other, they look the same.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, they're very much emulating that period in motorcycle world. Why that's necessarily what they want to do, I don't know. I mean,
To each their own. You know, I like the culture of it. I like the scene. I like hanging out at the parties.
They produce cool bikes. I
Yeah.
mean, it's cool stuff.
You know, and I mean, I like all that stuff, man. Anything that's like, you know, promoting riding, you know what I mean, and promoting getting experiences on a bike. I feel like those are the most important things. Once I started riding across country, doing those kind of trips and really opening my life up to people outside of Dallas, man, my life changed. You know, I just immersed with like different culture and knowledge and ways of thinking and ways of acting, and it's totally shaped who I've become, you know. And I feel like a lot of people are you know, like I said, with the use of social media, have seen that these things exist, these events and these cultures and these places that you can go ride your bike to, you know what I mean? Or just go jump in a fucking van and go to, or a truck or whatever, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely easier to share all that information and get people hip to whatever it is you're doing, you know, all around the world. Yeah.
Ever since, like, Forrest Gump is one of my favorite movies of all time, right? Love that movie. And that part where they're running across country, or he's running across country and he finally stops and says he's going home, is at Monument Valley, right? Always like, that's the coolest fucking thing in the world as a fucking, 16-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid when I saw the movie. And it wasn't until Instagram came out that someone took a picture of that and they had the tag of where it was located, and it was literally 2 days before I was about to ride to California, right? So I was like, it's on the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was probably one of the most, like, enriching experiences, seeing that place, knowing that I've always wanted to, never knew where it was, never really actively looked very hard to figure it out either.
Yeah.
But it just was awesome, man. It was cool to see. It was cool to see the spot in the movie, right where he turned around at and shit, and.
Well, we definitely all have to be in that position to enrich our lives, to slow down. I have driven across this country more times than I can count. I haven't ridden across this country more times than I count. I wish I could say that I have, but I haven't. I drive across it. I haul bikes across it. That's just the nature of what it is. That you're always working up to a deadline to get these motorcycles somewhere.
Yeah.
And not necessarily getting to ride them somewhere. That was the fun thing of being involved with the hot bike tour a couple times. Is that we were hustling to get these bikes done, to get them somewhere, but we knew once we got there, we're riding these son of a bitches for several days, and it's up to us to choose to enjoy it, or make it all about business. I know that I even had to check myself coming here. Last night after the hand-built show wrapped, we were over at Revival Cycles for their wrap party, and I'm struggling in my head. It's like, I want to hang out and talk to my friends a little bit more before I leave, have a couple beers, but man, I'd really like to get 4 or 5 hours down the road. Maybe I get to Oklahoma City tonight and crash there. That way I don't have a 20-hour drive to look forward to. And it's like, but damn, there's a couple people I'd like to see in Dallas. I want to stop by and see a friend in Stillwater. You being one that reached out to me before I even got down to, or no, I was already in Texas. And it's like, I'd really like to stop and talk to him. And then I said, but goddamn, I don't want to drive through Dallas. And then when you said, I'm 20 miles south of Dallas, it's like, well, good. I made the right decision. Last night I was going to hit the road, and I got on the road at like 2:00 in the morning after talking with friends at the wrap party. I'm like, I'm just going to get as far down the road as I can, and I was like, I don't know. Am I going to stop in Dallas, or what am I going to do? And I hadn't even decided when I was on the road, and then I got 100 miles down the road and saw the billboard saying Buc-ee's 2 miles ahead, and right about then my eyes got real heavy, and it's like, fuck it, I'm stopping. I'm pulling into Buc-ee's, and I'm going to roll out the sleeping bag in the van and sleep, and I'll text everybody in the morning and make plans to stop in Dallas and make plans to stop in Stillwater. It's like, I got nothing I have to get home to tomorrow as soon as possible. It's just like, you have an opportunity to stop and visit these people. Just
do it.
You have that opportunity now. Next time you may not have that opportunity. You may have to be somewhere. So I had to check myself last night. I was too worried about just getting down the road as far as I could, and it's like, you know what, just pull over.
There's a lot of good shit in between here and there.
Text these guys in the morning and see if it works out. I texted you, got back, and it's like, it's going to work out. Texted my buddy in Stillwater. It's like, it's going to work out. There's another guys here in the Dallas area. I've been wanting to visit their shop, and I texted them and waiting to hear. I mean, I haven't looked at my phone since I sat down. Well, actually, I met Aaron Kaufman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And one of his guys, Jeremy, up in Wisconsin.
I used to work with Jeremy. If you go meet him, Jeremy, the one that works at Gas Monkey, or
he works for Aaron.
He works for Aaron.
He did work at Gas Monkey, but when Aaron left, he ended up leaving, doing his own gig for a while, and then when Aaron started his shop, asked him.
Is it the Jeremy that has one of your hammers?
No, different one.
Okay, different one. Yeah, I was gonna say, because that Jeremy.
There is a Jeremy that's still at Gas Monkey.
We used to work together at a shop, and we used to take his little car every day to lunch because all I had was a bike, so he'd always drive.
Yeah, no, I only know him through social media. We have not met. But no, I met Aaron and his guy up in Wisconsin for the last metal shaping class, and we hung out for a few days with that. And
I've been wanting to meet Aaron. I just found out recently he has a Dyna, so I've been wanting to talk to him about that. But they're reaching out to him is kind of hard, for me at least, because I'm no real connection. Like you guys have a fabrication background together and stuff that y'all have more. I'm just a painter. It looks like I'm soliciting when I reach out to him. You know what I mean? So, but no, I thought it'd be cool to talk to him and everybody I know when I'm out of state, hey, you know those guys at Gas Monkey? And I'm like, no, I'm not really that close with him.
It was fun. It was fun being. I didn't know him at all. I had actually met Aaron a few years earlier when he was still at Gas Monkey. There was something that Aaron and Richard were invited guests to a big car show in South Dakota several years ago, and they were there, and I met him through my work there, and of course there's thousands of people that they sign autographs and meet that there's been no reason for him to remember who I was. But this time around, as we hung out, went to the bar, we had conversations. He and I talked about Bonneville, Salt Flats, and racing quite a bit, and we talked about the hand-built show that I was going and he maybe was going, and got to know Jeremy and got to see how how the television stuff affects a guy like that, having to turn it on and off. We couldn't really, anywhere we went, inevitably he'd be recognized by somebody, and then you get this group of people and said, are you that guy from TV? And he's like, oh, hi, I'm Aaron. How are you? What's your name? And he'd have these conversations. Of course, the selfies and the photos, and the thing about him, I don't know him. We're not friends. I've just spent some time with him. He was definitely very genuine with me, and he took time. Anybody that came up to him that wanted to have a photo. There's some people he'd end up having half-hour, 45-minute conversations. There was one time we were at a bar, and all of us were ready to leave, and he was there having a conversation with somebody he met, and he was enjoying the conversation, and
he stayed.
We waited until the conversation was over. And talking with his guy Jeremy, he's like, he's really good at turning that on and off. Being just one of the guys with us in the group, hanging out, having some beers, and BSing about life experiences and family and what we're doing next, and then playing the role and entertaining and meeting new people, but all of it was very genuine. He seems like a really good guy.
That'd be a nice quality to be able to have. Not that any of us are on his level or anything, but it sucks, man, because when I go to shows and bike events and stuff, that's like vacation to me, even though it's work. So I always start drinking, and I need to stop. And then I just get too deep in conversations with people and too opinionated and things like that, and it's like I said, it'd be nice to know how to turn those things on and off. And
I say turn it on and off, and I don't know if he's necessarily turning anything on or off. But he was definitely, when I say turning it on, just meaning that he's accommodating these people that see him and recognize him and they wanted to be able to tell the story. Oh, guess who I met at the bar the other night? He was here in Wisconsin. And I say turning it on, but he was just accommodating and being genuine with those people.
That's how the other guy that used to be on the show, Dustin, I know him pretty well, and he was like that. We'd be out somewhere, and he'd get into character more or less. Not so much into character, like you said, but he was accommodating. He would answer the questions, give them attention. I guess he understood that these are the kind of people that made him not made him, but they gave him the substance to be where he's at.
They wouldn't continue to have him if they weren't making the public engage what they were doing.
That'd be cool. I like to meet Aaron. I probably try to one day. I just like I said, I'm just as busy as I know they are. You know what I mean? So but no, that's cool, man. Like, I'm glad you came through. Shit, that's what all this stuff's about, man. And then you had a lot of good insights on not even just working with your hands and metalwork, but just it's just good shit, man. So I appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, no, it was a good conversation. I enjoy having the conversations about the industry because it's something I've been involved with a long time and passionate about, and I just wanted I want it to continue to thrive. So
yeah, me too.
Only way to get more of us kind of like-minded, is to just have those conversations and talk about, doing things that are more positive for the industry rather than things that are negative, and still welcoming those things that sometimes we don't like, that irritate us, but yet to a degree still draw attention to all of us, that do this. It's just a matter of,
it's like you need it all, but you also need it all within moderation, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, that's cool, man. Like I said, it's this podcast stuff, man, it's been a great way of like bringing all that type of shit to the table. But man, more than anything, it's been a great way of like learning from my perspective. Like I considered myself somebody that's been in the industry for quite a while. That I've made a living off the industry for the last 15 years more or less. And so when you get around other people that are in different like areas of the industry or different levels of their commitment or whatever it may be, it's like their insights are valuable to me, just to be able to hear their view and how they view things or how they've dealt with the customers, like we talked earlier. How did you get through dealing with, I feel like they all come in phases. So you deal with the customer thing, and then you deal with your shit, and then you deal with, how do you deal with your, you got the customers and you got you figured out. Now you got family shit to figure out. Yeah. And then you get older and you're like, well, what am I leaving behind? And so there's like this constant, step of like learning. Like you said, you're the quiet one. So, you're taking in and taking in and taking in until you feel like, all right, I got to say something here.
Yeah. Sometimes that's met with good responses and sometimes not.
Yeah. I mean, that's the enjoyment of conversation. It's like, I could totally be a hypocrite on some of these things. I could say that I feel this way one day, and then 2 days later I could have a different opinion about it. And that's what's really should be taken with conversation. Is it, conversation is just like, hey, this is what I think. This is what you think. Man, your shit sounds better than mine, dude. I think I'm gonna start thinking like that. Yeah. So you change your position, or you learn, or you add more content to your thought, and that's what a real conversation is, and that's why they can be so motivating and powerful when you allow them to come in.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely there's a lot of that gets lost as far as the power of conversation, with the way people interact. Mm-hmm. I hate text messages. I hate emails, but that's just how some people, that's the only way they communicate.
Yeah. I enjoy this kind of conversation for what we talk about, but like business and stuff, or I prefer to text on that. That way I can keep a written agreement.
Yes. Yeah. That's the paper trail is of course nice. I mean, that's no different than having something printed up on letterhead and sent in the mail. Just so you're aware, this has been documented. This is what we had in conversation. I agree with that. I mean, if I'm having a phone conversation with somebody that, we like in business, I have someone that I communicate with on a fairly regular basis that we're not located in the same town, but we do business together, that we'll have a phone conversation, and I know he doesn't do it, but I take notes of our conversation, and then I follow up our conversation with an email with bullet points of the things that we conversed about. That's something that I started getting into more and more when I worked at Clockworks. When we would have meetings, it's like, okay, we all had this roundtable discussion. It's like somebody needs to follow up and make sure that we all act on it and follow through with what we said we're going to do. And I've carried that over to what I do on my own. Mm-hmm. But having those conversations leading up to that email, I just can't stand doing it via text or via email because there's even though we sitting together with one another, we've got body language that we can read from one another. But even over the phone, at least you've got inflection in voice, and you can feel emotion through tone of voice. Where obviously there's absolutely none of that on email. I know I've got myself trapped into emails where somebody feels that I am either upset or being short with them, or whatever they're reading into what I'm typing, when I'm just trying to be direct. Yeah. I'm trying to be efficient and not waste time, and then that would upset somebody, and they think, oh, what's he pissed about? It's like, well, I'm not pissed about anything. Then I found myself sending these emails, prefacing it by saying, first off, I am not upset. Yeah. I'm just choosing
Which also probably sounds weird too.
Yeah.
Listening to, like, you're defensive now.
Right. I'm choosing my words, to be as direct and as efficient as possible, or however I would preface it. But yeah, I was apologizing for something before I had even upset anybody. But that's why I don't like email and stuff, because it gets so. It's like I text in full words.
Yeah.
I text in full sentences.
So you write out people?
Yeah. I text in full words and sentences as much as I can, because I just feel weird when I shortcut all that, because there's sometimes I read something, it's like, do they mean this or do they mean that? But that's maybe just because I don't understand that language necessarily.
Yeah.
I had a teenage daughter, so I do understand some of it, but I don't speak that way. so that makes me old.
So up next, you got your hands full trying to get everything ready for the FXR show in Sturgis, pretty much, right? Are you going to be at Rock Rally again this year, or what do you?
I don't have any current plans to be at Rock Rally. No.
So is it a pretty open slate for you until Sturgis, or?
Yeah, Sturgis is the only event that I've got ahead of me that I know that I'm going to be at. When I get back home, I've got stuff I'm going to be doing for my own business, and obviously getting stuff ready for Sturgis. But I also help a friend back home on his farm, so we got calving season, that's just started for him, and then as soon as the snow goes away and we start getting rain and sunshine, it's going to be, hay season. So be busy trying to balance all of that.
Keeps you busy though. So what's the Instagram so everybody can follow you and stuff and check out your shit?
My Instagram is Sodak Big Joe. It's SODAK Big Joe, which is short for South Dakota. Numerous times it was obvious to me what it said, but numerous times people that don't know what Sodak is, they call me Soda K. Oh, it's Soda K Big Joe. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess, yeah. If you're not from South Dakota, it's Soda K, But Sodak, sort of like SoCal, type thing. But yeah, anyway.
That makes sense. Well, shit, man, I appreciate you coming out. I think, I don't know how long we got. We're probably almost 3 hours, though. But
shit, time went by fast there.
All right, well, I appreciate it. We'll wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If you're still here, then, you must have really enjoyed this. Congratulations. It's another 3 hours of your time you've spent listening to this.
Yeah. Hope we didn't drag it out.
Did you enjoy it? If so, maybe you should invest back into what you're listening to with the Patreon.
Or, just go and give it a review on iTunes. Give it a review. Give it some stars. Tell your buddies. Post it on your IG, Instagram for all you nerds. Repost that shit. Just help us out. Like, the reach is the main thing. Like, we want more people to hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's kind of the most important part, like I said. So, just do what you can to help us out. It also helps out our sponsors, Texas Performance MC, Paint Huffer Metal Flake. It helps us out. It helps us do cool shit. Yeah, I don't really have any, grand...
Afterwards.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I mean, I don't want to drag out too much more of your time, but...
It's a fucking dreary day.
Yeah. Looking forward to getting to my kids this weekend. We're going to go take them camping.
Joe Pool Lake.
Yeah, something super simple, and then I don't know about any of you guys, but I'm a huge comic book fan, and Infinity War comes out Friday, so I'm going...
Are you trying to go see that?
Fuck yeah, I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see that shit. Pretty stoked about that. My son is as well.
I'll be stoked when they release a new Spawn. That's all I even care about.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got kind of a weekend I got to spend with the family, and then, like I said, it's back on the grind.
In Texas Hills the next weekend. And then the weekend after that, you guys are going to be in California,
right? Yeah, we're going to Cali. So lots to do. We got a lot of helmets that we're barely just now getting to start on the helmets that we've been backed up on. So I'm excited to do them. I think that, moving forward, the helmets are going to be the things that we're going to really start trying to put the most design in. Of course, bikes as well. But, I want to, after listening to the podcast we did with Ryan, it just kind of made me want to start focusing a little bit more back into the artwork.
Yeah.
And you know, on the smaller projects, I can really, you know, I can afford the time to go off, you know, as opposed to the bigger baggers and the stuff like that. I can't put a price tag for the amount of time it would take to do the sick shit that I want to do. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We're going to start pushing it. It's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to buy me a Ghost Bandit here soon.
Nice.
So maybe we can do some crazy shit with that.
Yeah, I won't charge you that much.
I'll give you like free run. You can do whatever. I don't care.
Put a dick farm on there.
That's fine. I'll rock it, you know.
Big fucking
I'll
Samuel
rock
L.
it
Jackson
with
dick.
the cock.
You'll be a dickhead.
That's fine.
Anyway, the next podcast we got released will be the one I told you I recorded earlier today. Steve Hager, I think that's how you say it. I'm sorry if I fucked that up. It's a cool story with this guy because me and the homies that rode to California last year, we met this guy at Monument Valley. Like, he was a photographer there.
Took some pretty good photos, y'all.
Taking pictures, and then he ended up snapping a few of us on the bike, and we started talking, and the dude's from Dallas, right? So we're 1,100 miles away from the house, and we meet a dude that's 20 miles from our house.
Right.
And, you know, ended up talking to him. Man, I enjoyed the conversation. It was a photographer. It wasn't so much of a motorcycle podcast, but we did talk a little bit of bike stuff in there. And there was some sound issues on my fault. Jesse wasn't here again for this one.
Yeah.
So
it was like 9 a.m.
Yeah, it was early. He actually knocked on the door and woke me up.
I absolutely forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then, like, I didn't even realize until you posted that story, and I was like,
yeah.
I'm a piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I still think it's good. It might be a little bit, the sound quality might be a little subpar for what we've been trying to put out.
It's actually dreadful, but I'll try to fix it.
Jesse will try to do what he can, and you know, I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you guys check him out and hear his stuff as well. And I hope you liked Big Joe's stuff. You know, I'm a big fan now, and can't wait to see him in Sturgis. So anyway, holler at your boy.
Later.